Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our board meeting tonight. It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call our open session to order. First of all, we will report on our closed session. And the item to report on from closed session is as follows. In closed session, the board took action to approve the 5-day suspension without pay of a classified employee. The roll call vote was as follows, 5-0 in the affirmative to approve the suspension. Debbie, can you help us reestablish the quorum?
Yes, Mr. Messina?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Present.
Mrs. Storley?
Here.
Mrs. Wilson?
Here.
And Mr. Jensen?
Present. Thank you, Debbie. So we do have a full quorum tonight. Next on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Matt Funicello to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Next is approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Next are the minutes from our regular meeting of July 19th.
Move to approve the minutes from the July 19th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mr. Messina to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 19th, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. That motion carries. We'll move on now to communications and introduction of our student board member, Mr. Kuhlman.
Thank you, President Jensen. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce our newest student governing board member, Miss Dara. And then Dara, I'm going to pronounce your last name and you're going to correct it for us and make sure we get it the right way, okay? Fallodun?
Yeah.
Fallodun. Okay, Dara Fallodun. I had the pleasure of meeting Dara last year when she was a member of our Student Communications Council. She is an outstanding student from Golden Valley. In her time at Golden Valley High School, Dara has served as the ASB president, outreach captain, excuse me. She's the current ASB, and she is currently the ASB president. She's also the current vice president and former treasurer of the Black Student Union and an active member of Golden Valley's Equity and Diversity Collaborative. Dara serves as an example of what can be accomplished with an open mind and a positive attitude. She approaches every day not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity, and she embodies the motto of Golden Valley by recognizing the strength in diversity while consistently striving towards unity. She is sure to serve this board and the community as she does everything in life with all of her heart. Dara, I'd like to welcome you to as a member of the student representative of the governing board, and I'm not sure if the governing board might want to share their welcomes as well.
Mrs. Storley, would you have anything you'd like to say?
Absolutely. As it's been pointed out, this is our third Golden Valley person. Congratulations. You will enjoy this and hopefully learn something, and you will teach us many things and help us understand things that are happening on the high school campus. So we do appreciate your input, and I know you gather from the other high schools. So we love having you here, and we're just so glad you're going to have a great time with us.
Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Dara, we are especially excited to have you. The student voice is so important to our deliberations as board members. You will bring that and help us to think about things from a perspective that sometimes we miss. So we are really grateful to have you. And I'm looking forward to continuing to see you grow. This is the third student from Golden Valley High School. It started with William O., who was the class of 2014, and we now have you, and you're going to bring great things. But I also want to make sure that everyone knows that the students on the Student Communications Council select and elect who will be the student representative on the board from amongst that group, and that they chose you is such a wonderful, exciting honor to see. So welcome.
Messina.
I think it's suspect that we've had 3 from Golden Valley. I think this calls for an internal investigation. No, I'm just joking, and I'm pleased to have you on too as well. I always enjoy the student board members. They bring a different perspective to things, so I'm expecting great things from you.
Mrs. Wilson.
I want to welcome you as well, Dara. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Dara when I went to visit. She was at the leadership camp, CATA, in Santa Barbara. She was doing a great job bringing her team together, and then she had a lock-in. I don't know if many of you know that, but after they do CATA camp, they come back and then they teach all of the other students in ASB who didn't have the opportunity to go to the camp. And so I loved hearing from her talk about her 16 freshmen that were there, that she was just very anxious to give them a great opportunity and get them excited about it. So she's already shown a great deal of leadership, as has been referenced before, and we're so excited to have you on board, Dara.
Thank you. Dara, and I would like to just echo what everyone else has said and offer my congratulations to you for being selected, and I look forward to working with you, and I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time and it'll be a great experience, and we're all excited for you. So welcome. And your parents are here. Would you like to introduce them?
Yeah, my parents are right over there.
Go ahead, stand up.
Please stand up.
Stand up. That's my mom, Funke Folladin, and that's my dad, Dixon Folladin. And I like to say thank you for all your support and driving me everywhere. I'm getting my license, so just to put the stress off of you. But just thank you so much for all of your love and support daily. So.
Thank you for coming. Okay. We will now move on to our board member reports. For the evening, we'll start with Mrs. Storley.
You will once I get my phone, so
Okay.
start with somebody else.
Dr. Moore, would you like to go?
All right. You sure, Ms. Durley?
Yeah, I'm not in my place yet.
Okay.
I'm in my place. No, I'm not. Go ahead.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting since the start of the new school year. It is great to see everyone here, and we've had a wonderful start to the school year. I can say that personally, as you know, my son is in 7th grade, and now I am a parent again in this district with a child right here in our wonderful schools. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful start of the school year. As a part of that, I've had the pleasure and honor of visiting La Mesa, Canyon, Bowman, and Sierra Vista since the start of the school year, and that's just been a week and a day. So a lot going on, seeing a lot of great things happening on our campuses, and I want to thank the teachers for getting us started the right way in our school year. Thank the administrators for their leadership and making sure that our campuses open safely, and district leadership for all that you did to make sure that we were ready for the heat. I've been in classrooms and mostly had really good experiences with the AC, mostly. So it's been good. So thank you so much for everything. And we also had a wonderful admin meeting and luncheon at the start of the school year, and all of the district administrators were there. It was a really great time for us to bring everyone together around the idea of being present, being curious, helping to inspire curiosity, and helping us to think about our communication and how we communicate out as well as receive communication in. Last night, we had an amazing wellness parent forum. We have those every month, and our wellness team, our wellness coordinators across the district put on a really wonderful event that helped to give an overview of all of the supports that we have from Tier 1 to Tier 3 through our wellness centers and wellness coordinators. I invite you to look for those every month because they are always enlightening and helpful and helping us to think about ways in which we can support our kiddos. And a few announcements, but I won't share all of them since there's several of us giving updates, but I did want to highlight to mark your calendar now for the College and Career Fair that will be on September the 19th. It will be at Canyon High School. This is the second year that they are hosting it for all of the schools, and I want to thank them for that because I know that they're also having a lot of changes at Canyon High School to support us district-wide that we'll hear about shortly. But I especially want to thank them for hosting the College and Career Fair again on September the 19th. It will be from 6:30 to 8:30, and every grade level is invited. So from 7th through 12th, we'll be able to attend that event. So please be sure and come and meet with some college reps and career reps. And Mr. Jensen, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Mrs. Storley, you ready?
Yeah,
Okay, please go ahead.
sorry. It hid itself behind something else. I have 4 schools in my district, and I was lucky enough to be able to attend the first day at Castaic High School, though the drive up that hill is horrific, and we'll talk about that sometime else. I also got to go to Rio, which is my junior high. I called in a virtual welcome to Valencia High School and AOC, which are also my other 2 schools. I'm hoping everybody had a wonderful first day and first week, and that this school year turns out to be one of our best. And we are here to help you and help the district do this exactly the way it's supposed to be. So trust us, we're doing our best, and it's not my fault that Valencia High School doesn't have turf. I just thought I'd tell you that. Since the principal of Valencia High School has made a few comments, it's not my fault. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Storley. Mr. Messina.
All right. First, if you're marking your calendars and you have them out on September 25th at the Hart High School auditorium, we're bringing in a speaker for the second time. I think he was in the year that we locked up for COVID, that February, and then we did the lockup. Yeah, right. His name is Tom Kirsting, and he's been almost 30 years in the education world, and he's coming to talk to you about the disconnect that's been created with your child's smartphones, smart devices, and society as a whole. And I would really ask all of you to go. The school, the district has brought this person in because they're an expert in this area. You know, the average parent spends about 5 minutes a day with their child, 5 solid minutes a day with their child, and the conversations are not very meaningful. And he goes through what has happened over the last 25 years since more and more kids are getting the smartphones in their hands. So it's great information to have. And again, it's September 25th at the Hart High School auditorium. People who attended it last time loved it, but we couldn't do much of a follow-up because of the lockdown. And the CDC recently issued a report of the effect that social media has on young kids, students that spend more than 2 hours a day on the device. Also, some good news. An SCV resident earns the highest achievement in Girl Scouts. Now, they don't give her last name, she's probably a minor, but Emily M., a high school senior in the William S. Hart School District, has earned Girl Scouting's highest honor, the Globe Award. Emily's Globe Award project, titled Savored Memories Will Never Be Forgotten, created resources for families in the greater Los Angeles community who have members battling cognitive decline. Her project encouraged connections, support families in making lasting memories, and brought joy to the senior community members. The Gold Award is the highest achievement a Girl Scout can earn, available to girls in high school who create sustainable change on a community or with issues important to them. The Gold Award Scouts address the root cause of the problem, plan, implement innovative solutions to drive change, and lead a team of people to success. And I applaud her for taking on that kind of project and making some solutions. We're all probably know somebody or dealing with somebody personally in this kind of situation. Thank you.
Mrs. Wilson.
You. Well, I too was, like the others, was excited to be able to have the opportunity to visit some of our campuses this last week and a half as we're getting school underway. I was able to visit Castaic, which is a beautiful campus. I was very impressed and just in awe of them. And Canyon High School and Valencia on their first day, it was so fun to see all the students coming on campus the first day of school and their excitement and being back there and ready to learn and ready to make new friendships. And and then Sierra Vista, I was really pleased to be able to tour that campus that I haven't been to since my son graduated, and see some of the teachers, some of my son's teachers that are here today, and have Principal Garrett show us around, which I'm looking forward to his report. And just there were good things happening there, and got to take a little basil from their garden. It was wonderful, and good to see all the students just looked happy to be there. And they even said they were, except for one she said she wasn't super happy about being back to school. So we got to work with her, but I think Principal Garrett's got that under control. He's working on that. So so that's my report. I'm excited I second what Mrs. Storley said, that it's going to be a great year.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Dara, did you have a report you'd like to make?
I do, yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
So as far as all the Hart District schools, students have felt very welcome in their schools, and our ASBs have been working hard on just making sure that all the students as a whole felt welcome. La Mesa Junior High in particular, within their ASB, they have made challenges where they increase school spirit and also made the 7th graders feel welcome, which is pretty cool. And then also our Golden Valley ASB is working on a week of welcome where we feature our first AMP rally and also our club rush and just different activities so that students just feel more hype and just excited about the school year. And we've also been focused on homecoming and senior activities like senior parking and senior sunrise, which I had to wake up very early for last Friday, like a criminal hour, but it was very fun and I really enjoyed it. Valencia and Castaic, and we're all focused on just making our seniors feel welcome in their last year of high school. And our homecoming season sales have been starting throughout the district. Hart High School in particular have added a creative twist to their homecoming. They actually made it similar to like a musical festival, which I'm very excited to see and how that will pan out. And as far as sports, I know that a lot of teams have been working very hard, even though it's pretty hot, but they've been working very hard in the heat. And Castaic volleyball girls, in particular, they also did pretty good in their game last night. They won and had like a program sweep, which is pretty cool. And football season starting, so that's nice too. That's my report.
Thank you, Dara.
Did you notice Mr. Jensen light up when you said football season started?
And that was a great segue into my comments. But before I get to football, welcome back, everyone. It is going to be a great year. It's going to be a fantastic year here in the Hart School District. We have 63 new teachers, and on July 31st, we did have a new teacher orientation meeting at Castaic High School, which I was able to attend, which was a very nice event. And as has been mentioned also on August 7th, just last week on Monday, we had administrative back-to-school day, if you will, the day before school started, and all 5 of us board members were able to be there, which was nice. That was also a very well put-together event. Football. So we have 3 home games this weekend. Tomorrow, Saugus plays at Canyon High School at 7 o'clock. On Friday, Canyon plays at Canyon High School at 7 o'clock. Then on Saturday, Valencia High School plays at Canyon High School at 7 o'clock. So Valencia plays Bishop Amat. Canyon plays Ridgeview from Bakersfield. And Saugus plays Rio Mesa from Ventura County. So all those games tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, 7 o'clock, Canyon High School. Be there if you can. And then the other teams play on the road, all on Friday. So got a lot of options for high school football. It's not the only sport, but I've been a high school football enthusiast for many years, so it's hard for me to get away from that. At any rate, thank you all for being here tonight. It's great to see you. And we will move on now in the agenda to our Employee Association leadership. First off is President John Minkus from the Hart District Teachers Association.
Good evening. Good evening to the school board, our new student board member. Congratulations, and I know you're going to enjoy it, and we are always happy to have the input from the students I hope you enjoy it. President Jensen, Superintendent Kuhlman, and staff, thank you as usual for having me here tonight. I want to once again welcome our new board member, Mrs. Erin Wilson, to your first meeting of the year where students are back in the classrooms and hope abounds. On that note, I do want to thank you for joining our tour of Sierra Vista on Monday. We had a really nice time, and we got to see a wide range of activities, including special and general ed classes, the Wellness Center and the Student Garden, as mentioned, and a couple of student transitional periods where they're moving from class to class or breaking into lunch. Thank you to HDTA Rep Sky Ostrom for organizing and to Principal Marcus Garrett for leading the tour. As you may have noticed, HDTA is working to take a proactive approach with our individual board members, their representative sites, and HDTA membership. We have structured our different teams of leadership to work together with the school board and staff, bringing us together as a team and highlighting the strengths and accomplishments of our district. We will continue to work with board members and staff to bring tangible and productive interaction across the district to see firsthand what is happening at our sites. As such, we have asked for volunteer speakers from our membership, specifically from those schools represented at each meeting. Members have been asked to share personal anecdotes and information from their experiences in the Hart District to bring you further insight into us, the Tier 1 employees. In addition to the hands-on site experiences, we hope this provides a better understanding of the many diverse positions and individual responsibilities of our members in working toward our established goals. Speaking of our established goals, the strategic plan itself emphasizes the core values of caring and community. In order to work towards these goals in the aftermath of our COVID experience, our district has committed extensive resources for increased student health support services. Remember that your staff has been through similar experiences and are also part of this community. Recognize that we need support as well. Actions speak louder than websites. Our HDTA members, along with our CSEA brethren, need to be treated with respect and understanding. We are people too. We need trust, not doubt. We need leadership, not authority. And most importantly, we need the district to commit funding that validates what our members bring to the table and the documented results we have continued to produce in this district. Those results evidenced at each and every site, for each and every student, each and every day, because we are one Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next is California School Employees Association, Chapter 349, President Janice Dennington. Janice, welcome, and please share some remarks with us.
Good evening, President Jensen, board members, Superintendent Coleman, cabinet, and guests. I too would like to welcome our new student board member and our board member. I wish you both well, and I'm looking forward to working with the both of you. So welcome, and we're having a good year this year. So as we begin the 23-24 school year, I reflect back to the positivity of the 22-23 school year. I welcome new ideas and continue team building between CSEA and HDTA members. Moving forward, CSEA and the district negotiating teams met on July 11th. Our reasonable proposals on salary and benefits was met with a non-offer and a message of, we don't matter. This is extremely disheartening. How do we continue to build morale and instill morale in our members and show them how valuable they are when we're offered nothing for our hard work and dedication? With this being said, CSEA and the district will meet again on September 11th, hoping funding will be located to compensate our valuable members. In closing, I'd like to leave everyone with the words of Michael Jordan. Some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, and others make it happen. Our classified and certificated members make it happen every day. And I'm confident our district has the ability and the resources to make it happen too. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Our next item on the agenda is our school site report for this evening. This evening, the report is from Sierra Vista Junior High School. Our principal there, Marcus Garrett, is here with us. He'll be leading the report. Marcus, it's great to see you here tonight, and take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate that. While I get this started, I just want to thank ladies and gentlemen of the board, as well as our cabinet, and welcome our new student board member, Ms. Dara. I hope you realize you represent the largest contingent of schools of all of the board members, right? Because you are our one representative from our students. What you do is really valuable. Your voice has got to be heard, right? Take care of all 20+ thousand of our students while you're up here. We appreciate you. Thanks. You got it. Seriously. And you have a lot of support. You got teachers, you have administrators at your school. I know you got an amazing team of professionals at your school. So just lean on people, right? Ask for help when it's needed. You're going to do great. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I appreciate, I think, being the first person to speak this year, because I'll give everybody, all the other principals, hints on what not to do. Maybe they can improve their game as I move forward. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible, but I would like to share a little bit of data and information about our student population at Sierra Vista. When I submitted my report, we had 985 students. Our numbers have dipped a little bit since last Friday, when we had a handful of no-shows that aren't here. But I'll tell you, the percentages of each of these groups I'm going to share haven't changed. We have 483 seventh graders, 502 eighth graders. You'll notice our percentages of the two grades are pretty balanced. 18% of our students on our campus are students with IEPs as a result of some type of disability that requires special services for them. We also have 14% of our students who are English language learners. Now, these next two kind of pieces of data, I'll have to explain a little bit. I wanted to make sure I could fit them on the slide without doing multiple lines. This next piece talks about the California Assessment for Student Progress and Performance, the CASP test in English Language Arts. This number shows what our eighth graders who just matriculated to ninth grade this year did from seventh to eighth grade. So our students at Sierra Vista, their scores actually dipped by 1% from seventh to eighth grade. But I'd also like you to see that district-wide, we dipped by 5%. I will tell you, though, that slight dip doesn't compare to how deep the entire state of California dipped as well. I mean, this isn't something that's unique to our district. In fact, our district and our school have done very, very well relative to the rest of the state of California. Obviously, we would want our students to perform better every year, but I would say our progress is better relative to many groups. In terms of our same group of students, that cohort of students who just matriculated to ninth grade this year, we actually improved at Sierra Vista by 5% in the area of mathematics. And we can compare that to the fact that our district dipped by 1%. Our scores across the board are not necessarily as high as other schools in our district, but I will tell you, and you can see the row of folks sitting in the back there, and Sky Ostrom, who are, and Mike's here, Mike Copenhagen is here as well. And you see other members of HGTA, and you see classified staff members as well. The reason that the students in our district are doing better than the vast majority of the state of California is because we have amazing teams of professional educators and paraeducators and classified staff that are every day showing up, supporting our kids, and loving them every day. So we appreciate all the stuff that you guys are doing, because I get to sit up here and talk, but I'm not the one that's really helping our children figure things out, right? So what you guys do is critical. Has anybody met Tyson the Bison other than somebody at Sierra Vista? Oh, you have as well? Wonderful. I know Dr. Moore was here, was at Sierra Vista today, and she got to peek in the closet where the costume is. Prior to my arrival at Sierra Vista in July of 2021, the students in our associated student body decided to purchase a new mascot costume for the campus. And they got a bison and named the bison Tyson. So I just want to share a couple of photographs that I think speak very well of the way that we treat children on our campus and the role that this mascot plays. So here, this is a picture from last year during one of our team events. A handful of students just hanging out with Tyson. We have one of our current ASB students giving us a single bicep pose right here while we were doing our walkthrough registrations. This was either August 1st or August 2nd. I got her permission, and she was a little bit embarrassed. She's like, "Is everybody gonna see it?" I'm like, "No, just the folks at the board meeting. You guys are all right." And then I really enjoy this picture. This is a group of our current ASB students. I got a chance to be in the photo as well. And if you see that gentleman on the right-hand side, that's Deputy Richard Farkas, who is our new school resource officer for Sierra Vista and Canyon High School. Knowing that I stepped onto campus in 2021 with a new kind of mascot walking around in costume, it kind of pushed me to look and see a little bit if there's something about the characteristic of Bison that might be something we could use to motivate students and to drive students and to help them. So my staff, the staff at Sierra Vista has seen this, and I share just a couple of things about kind of the characteristics of that animal specifically here in North America. I stole this, it's not from me, I'll credit the organization where it came from at the end. But I just want to read a couple of sentences to you. The mighty bison has it right. By charging into the storm, facing it head on, it limits the amount of time it takes to weather the storm and how quickly its adversity is overcome. Like the mighty bison who's rarely seen alone, we function better with a herd of support around us. Whatever storm you are facing and wherever you find yourself in life, we are in this together. This is family. And this is a characteristic that we have, since I became the guy who's the #1 troublemaker at Sierra Vista, this is really a type of culture and characteristic we've been trying to imbue into our students. And so that you know, this summary of the bison's character comes from an organization called everywarrior.org that supports first responders and military veterans who are facing struggles in their lives. These pieces right here and the importance, Ms. Dara, like I was telling you, right? Have your herd, get your support, because there's a lot of people out there. We protect one another, And it's the thing we want to talk to our students about. The proverbial storms of life are going to attack us. Don't hide from them. Face them head on. Don't be scared. A couple of examples of the support that our herd at our school provides. This is a very short list. By no means does it represent everything that we're able to do with our kids. We have a variety of lunchtime enrichment activities that we provide for students. We have teachers who have karaoke machines in their class. We have teachers who do chess competitions or just chess games. We have arts and crafts that are available, a variety of sports like basketball, soccer, football, smash ball. Kids are out during brunch and lunch, running around and playing, especially this year that we instituted across all the junior high schools in our district the policy of not having personal digital devices on during school. Across all 6 of our junior high schools, personal digital devices are off and put away during the day. And I'll tell you, a lot of us were concerned what kind of pushback we might get from either parents or from students about this new policy. And you can ask teachers if you get a chance later. It has been minimal. And I am really proud of students because I actually had a student the second or third day of school. She's like, "Mr. Garrett, my social battery is drained." I'm like, "Well, after school, go plug in your phone, you'll be all right." She's like, "No, you don't understand. I'm not used to doing this right now. I am talking to everybody all the time, and I'm worn out." I'm like, "Well, you'll get stronger. Keep it up." And this lunchtime and brunch are times that our kids are really practicing social skills that we all know were diminished as a result of what we were required to do with online learning. We have a wellness center at our school, and I got these numbers from our wellness center coordinator. In the 22-23 school year, we had 4,259 visitors that came through our wellness center, all students. In our after-school homework club, there were 4,077 students who attended over the entire year. We had the opportunity to hire 1 additional counselor, which has given us the opportunity to reduce our entire caseload to under 200 students per counselor, which is, so that you know, it's an incredible ratio. So much so that we had the opportunity, one of our other junior high schools that has more than 1,200 students for a moment was dealing with just 2 counselors. So we got permission to actually allow one of our counselors to be loaned to that school to affect in a positive way the size of those counselors' student caseloads. Uh, and then, in my opinion, what really speaks to the culture and the climate at Sierra Vista, if you ever have had a chance, you guys have had a chance, a couple of you have already been to Sierra Vista this year. Every brunch, every lunch, we have our full administration team, all of our counselors, a variety of teachers on any given day. We have we have our campus supervisors who are regularly walking, talking, greeting, high-fiving, fist bumping, dabbing, just connecting with kids every single day. We do it before school, we do it at brunch, we do it at lunch, we do it after school. And we know that in order to help our children feel connected and feel safe so that at some point they can be willing to be vulnerable and ask for help, we have to spend time with them face to face. And that culture doesn't get built by necessarily big programs that we have running on our campuses. It gets built by personal contact on a regular basis that continues to build relationships. And in my opinion, it's the most valuable thing that we do. We talked about kind of the proverbial storms of life. Last year, Sierra Vista adopted a new positive behavior interventions and supports theme called STORM. And the acronym of STORM stands for having kids stand up for what is right, having them try their best, having them be on time and ready, having them respect themselves and others, and to have them make each day great. Last year, we gave this acronym and these behaviors and characteristics to our students and asked them to define what these behaviors and characteristics look like in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and in their communities. And what they came up with for us was a set of really brief behavior descriptions and things that our students can do in order to show how they can storm into their future by standing up for what's right, by trying their best, by being on time and ready, by respecting themselves and others, and by making each day great. You might notice that the language isn't super high level, which I love, because this is students' words spoken to other students giving advice about how to do these things and have great outcomes and storm into their future in their own way. That's really all I have to say, but I hope you guys may want to chat, ask me any questions.
That was a great report. We've got two speakers we're going to hear from first, and then we'll ask you a few questions.
I'm happy with that.
So Mandy Hatfield, and then Kristen Sifferman. Come into the center for the public comments. Yep. Ready, you may begin.
Gratitude and a sense of purpose that has been nurtured by the very community I now address. My journey as an educator within the Hart District has been shaped by the values and experiences that have defined my life. Having living in this valley since birth, my path mirrors the very institutions that have molded me into the person I am today. From Valley View to La Mesa to Canyon High, graduating in '04, this community has been an anchor, and it's an honor to give back as a teacher. For 14 years, I've had the privilege of guiding young minds within the Hart District, instilling in them not just knowledge, but life lessons. From my humble beginnings as a PE teacher at La Mesa to the thriving environment of Sierra Vista, where I've spent the majority of my career, I've witnessed the power of community and family at a school site and its impact on students. In my heart, Sierra Vista is more than just a workplace, it's my home. It's a place where I'm surrounded by colleagues whose hard work, dedication, and love for students make coming to work each day a joy, a place where staff and students high five and laugh during musical chairs, competitions, connect at student-teacher luncheons, and compete at our staff versus student softball game. I take pride in leading these events that exemplify the unity and spirit that makes Sierra Vista exceptional. So much so that I'm co-teaching ASB this year, and I want to further these bonds. I have 2 young children. I'm committed to ensuring that their educational experience in this valley continues to be one where teachers like myself can afford and are willing to participate in these critical activities that so closely connects teachers to students. It's crucial to recognize the heart of our district lies in its teachers. Individuals who tirelessly go above and beyond despite the challenges and often limited compensation of all these extra efforts. It's their passion, dedication, and ability to inspire that have propelled our district to the heights we stand at today. Let us show them how much we appreciate them by allowing them to continue to live in this valley where it's so hard to buy a home. and make our compensation for these extra efforts commensurate with the other districts
Thanks,
in our
Mandy.
county.
Your time's up. Appreciate your comments. Kristen, you're next, please.
Congratulations.
You may begin, please.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you for allowing me the time to speak tonight. My name is Kristen Sifferman, and I've been teaching for the Hart District since 2007, and 15 of those years at Sierra Vista. And there's a reason for that. Sierra Vista is a really special place. It's a place of opportunity for both students and staff. Working at SV has provided me with multiple chances to grow professionally. I've created 2 separate elective classes, been instructional coach, a member of a dozen committees, traveled to 3 different states for conferences. And together, our staff has created a culture of collaboration. We meet during our preps to analyze data and reassess previous year's lessons, plan events for students, collaborate with our peers before and after school, attend professional development workshops outside of our district, and we spend our summers reading YA books in hopes of finding a modern title that connects with kids. For students, it's an opportunity to follow their interests. We have a makerspace, a wellness center, intramurals, decade-long guitar program, and so many clubs created by students that there is literally a club meeting every day of the week. Shout out to my Harry Potter club. This summer, we hosted our first ever leadership conference for several of the year-long elective classes. Myself and 3 other teachers brought together students from our morning news broadcast, SV Life, ASB, and Yearbook to play team building games, set goals, and establish their roles as leaders on campus because these 3 classes are a strong reflection of the culture of our school. And we did this because we firmly believe that when students are empowered with the skill set to be leaders, they will be role models of inclusivity and help to make sure every child on campus feels like they're a part of our community. But no one asked us to organize this event. It isn't part of our paid stipend, and it's because we care so much about our students and our school. Keeping up this student-driven culture comes at a cost to our own families and our overall well-being. We stay late, bring our work home with us, stop by our classroom on the weekends, and purchase our own supplies for the classroom, all of which we aren't compensated for. If we are going to keep this student-centered culture up and this level of engagement, then we need your support to make that happen.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, both of you, for your comments. And now, board, do we have any questions for Principal Garrett? Questions? Dr. Moore, did you have something?
By the way, Ms. Sifferman forgot to mention her poetry cafe that she does during the spring. Mrs. Wilson, I invited you when you were visiting us on Monday. You guys, when that comes, it's a wonderful opportunity to come sit, read your own poetry that you've written, or choose something that you like and share it with our students.
Go ahead if you had a comment. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. No question. I appreciate your report. It was really inspiring, and I really like the way that you are focused on students and the connections to students. I know often we talk about the really amazing benefits of being a student in the Hart District. We have amazing academics, we have amazing athletics, we have amazing performing arts, we have amazing CTE programs, and our students will succeed because they are opportunity ready. But I think the most important piece that I see exemplified at Sierra Vista is a connection to students. In my walk today, I told Mr. Garrett how impressed I was. He knows the names of 7th graders who've only been in school for a week, and he's walking around introducing me to the students and calling them by their first names. And that connection to students is so critical. It's what's going to help them understand how to cope with the storms. And so I love your acronym for STORM that we all have in life. So thank you again for recognizing, and thank you also, Mandy and Kristen, for the comments, and especially the connection with staff to this student-driven culture that's at Sierra Vista. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. I think I got lucky. The kids we met just happened to be the ones that I know.
I was wondering if they passed you a note as they came toward you.
Or were they all the same name? That's what we
Yes.
wanted to know.
There were a couple different names.
Any other comments or questions?
I would just like, great report.
Thank you.
Teaching at Canyon for as long as I did, you know, we got to see what the junior highs do around us. And of course, that was our feeder junior high. So always appreciated the collaboration that we had back to the junior high. And your teachers there are absolutely awesome. So we appreciate you and we appreciate your school.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
I would
Anything
just like to say that it's really impressive to see how you guys are so driven to make sure that all the students are connected to you guys and just have a good relationship with you guys, because as students it makes school so much better when we're connected to our staff and to our admin. So thank you for that. And also I loved hearing about the LTA ideas. I will definitely be taking them back to our ASB. And I think it's also impressive for you guys as ASB to constantly be generating LTAs for all of your students. And I understand how important it is for all the students to just feel connected and just have an opportunity to participate in different events. So thank you.
All right, anything else? I was very impressed with your counselor ratio under 200. I don't know that I've been on the board a long time. I don't know that I've ever seen that in any school under 200, Mr. Coleman. That's fantastic.
It really helps counselors to build even better interpersonal relationships with their caseloads.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's just, we've been fortunate that we have been able to find the funds to hire counselors that we can keep. And every year I've lost one of them because they've gone to another spot, but we've been really, really fortunate that we're fabulous candidates that we are able to replace them with. And our counselors do an incredible amount of work. The social emotional piece that junior high school counselors do is dramatically different than what the role of our high school counselors is to, to really be pursuing the academic goals that students have put in front of themselves and help them get to those. They work really hard.
nice. I like Tyson the Bison. And Mandy and Kristen, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that too. So well done. Really appreciate it. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming tonight.
Appreciate that.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
We're going to move on now to our information item. We have one information item tonight, which is the Valencia High School field renovation project. And Mr. Peshek has the update and the information on this item. Ralph, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Mark Crawford, our Director of Human Resources and Athletics, to join me. And together, we're going to walk the board and the community through a review of the athletic turf project and the delays associated with that, where we are today, and where we're going to be tomorrow, literally tomorrow. Before we get going, I'd like to thank Mark, the principals at the high schools, our coaches, our athletic directors, and frankly, our students and our parents. It's not an ideal situation that we found ourselves in as a result of construction delays. And it certainly is no excuse, but sometimes construction projects get bogged down. And unfortunately, this one did. So special thanks to Canyon High School, who have taken on an extraordinary support role with the loss of the Valencia field, and it does have impacts on that campus, and thank you, Canyon. When the artificial turfs were installed, the quality of our facilities for students was a primary goal. The demands on our facilities by athletics, clubs, band, drill, pee-wee football, and the city of Santa Clarita, just to name a few, were too great to maintain natural grass fields, and this was the best option to maintain a high level of quality and safety in the fields. And so that's why the district went this direction with the turf fields. In the 2021-22 school year, the district's operations team, working with site staff, determined that both Saugus and Valencia fields had experienced more rapid deterioration than was anticipated. Warranty claims were submitted to the vendor, and a replacement plan was brought to the board for approval. Unfortunately, due to the timing and limited vendor availability of dates and staffing, we were not able to make that change happen in the summer of 2022. So they were scheduled for the summer of 2023. As you can see by this schedule, in November of 2022, we were able to secure installation dates from our vendor, AstroTurf, and we had every expectation working with them that the turf would be delivered and the project teams would start working on those fields the week of July 3rd. Unfortunately, that date came and went. We were able, through ongoing communications and daily, I won't call it harassment, but outreach to AstroTurf, to get the team into Valencia High School to start removing the old turf. That work occurred, and for any of you who have seen the signal or driven past the school, you'll notice that that turf is still sitting in the end zone. AstroTurf began to communicate after that crew started removing the field at Valencia High School that it was having trouble sourcing an installation team. These teams are very specialized. They're trained to work with this special product, install it safely and correctly so that it maintains its lifespan of approximately 10 years. When it became apparent that the delays were not being resolved, we entered in discussions with Saugus High School because the original plan was VHS, they're going to come in, they're going to pull up the field, turf's going to be delivered, and then the install team would start working at VHS, and the removal team would move over to Saugus. And it was going to be a tiered installation so we could get both facilities done. It became clear because of the delays and the 2 to 3 week timeline for installation that we would not be able to complete Saugus. And actually, as everybody is aware now, we were unable to, working with AstroTurf, to get them to complete Valencia High School before the start of school. As a result, I do want to share with the board that we have negotiated a 50% reduction in the cost for the field at Valencia High School. And we, as I'll show you in a later slide, are targeting that money to support our students and our schools and our programs. Here's the new timeline. Everybody's going to drop to the bottom of the page first, but I'm going to go from top to bottom. The turf left Dalton, Georgia over the weekend. It is almost to the California border as we sit here this evening. An installation team was finally identified. We were talking about bringing a team in from Georgia. We were talking about bringing in a New York team. We were talking about AstroTurf bringing in, and when we say we, these are our discussions with AstroTurf. We need a team. These
Ralph,
are AstroTurf
are we going to
teams.
see you out there installing this turf? I think.
Not installing, however, I will be in blue jeans tomorrow out at Valencia, making sure everything goes the way it's supposed to tomorrow. So, the teams drove over from Phoenix today. They're here. They're waiting for the truck to arrive tomorrow morning, and as soon as that truck arrives tomorrow morning, they will unload that turf and start the installation process this week. As you can see through the progression, it's a very structured process. They do the padding, and then they do 10 yards, and then they do the padding, and then they do 10 yards. So it's a very labor-intensive process. It's going to take approximately 2 to 3 weeks to complete, with an anticipated completion date no later than Friday, September 1st. We're hoping sooner, but we want it done correctly so that we don't have issues in the future. That leaves Saugus. Staff has already requested from AstroTurf that we be granted the installation slot for Saugus High School beginning the first week of June 2024. As soon as school's out, we want AstroTurf's teams here and we want the turf on site. We are still waiting for that to happen, and we will keep working with them. Our logic there is because we're starting a little later in September this year, that gives a 10-week window. And based on our experience this year, we think it's prudent to allow as much time as possible to get this done based on our recent history with this vendor. As I mentioned before, we were able to negotiate a significant price reduction, and we've communicated with the schools that we understand the inconvenience and the disappointment that our students, families, and community are experiencing as a result of this, and that we're providing additional equipment as needed, transportation as needed. If they're experiencing losses in revenues because they're not at their preferred venue, and we're going to be analyzing that and making the teams whole. It's a significant fundraising effort that our teams and our clubs, our cheer squad, they're all out there doing fundraising at these events. So we have historical records, we know what the averages are, and we're going to make sure that none of our clubs and none of our teams are financially impacted because they've already been impacted significantly by this.
So,
Mr. Crawford.
with
Sorry, I
that
have a-
information,
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yes, Ms. Storley.
If this is the wrong time, just say, shut up, Linda. Do we have to go forward with Saugus? Is it prudent to go forward with the same company that's given us this much trouble?
These are warranty repairs, and so
That's
the
right.
Saugus field actually is a zero-cost installation for us. Dr. Nielsen and the team, when we did the analysis a year and a half ago approximately, we all agreed that from the options that we chose, that due to the nature of the warranties, that
And
that's the
have we
direction.
already paid them for Valencia?
We have not.
Okay, good. That's one of the things that I was concerned. And
No.
and this date that you had up there, the
July 1st?
September 1st,
Oh, yes, September 1st, excuse me, yes.
is that going to really happen, or am I going to get phone calls at midnight?
So if the turf's there tomorrow and the aggregates show up, a week later, this team, AstroTurf is committed to working 6 days a week.
Okay.
They have to give them one day off, but AstroTurf is paying all the overtime associated with whatever it takes to get it done by September 1st.
And our,
So they're
our
absorbing
fee
that
is- Our
cost.
fee is set. We're not paying any extra because they're in hotels. or
No, their costs are increasing, our costs are decreasing. That doesn't negate the impact on our students,
That's right.
but we're going to use those funds to support our students.
These are all questions that I've been asked, so I thought I would ask
Yeah,
them in public.
absolutely.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Storley.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford, go ahead.
all right, all important questions. So when Mr. Peshek contacted me and we knew this was kind of building to a certain point, I went through all the schedules of every single school. Keep in mind that Foot League schedules are set far in advance, but pre-league schedules, which are the first 4 weeks of the season for all of our schools, each school does those individually. So I put together all of those, then contacted all the principals, the athletic directors, and the assistant principals over athletics, and said, okay, here's the problem. We need to work on a solution. So knowing that we wish the situation was different, but we're in the situation we're in. So like Tyson the Bison, we're going to hit that storm head on. So, and it calls for a lot of flexibility and a lot of sacrifices from several schools, but in particular, obviously, we needed to bring together the 3 schools that call Valencia home. There's 3, West Ranch, Valencia, and Castaic. So we knew it was automatically going to affect all of them. But then, knowing that we have one other option in our district, which is Canyon, and I'll talk about COC in just a second. So we brought together Canyon as well, and we started looking at the schedule, and I had kind of outlined possibilities. And so we worked on those as a team, everyone being flexible about who can play when. But remember, each of our schools also has an opponent. And so when you make a change like this, you have to get the opponent you're playing to agree to the change. So I relied upon our incredible principals with their persuasive ways to reach out to those schools, and those schools we're, in most cases, very generous about moving things around. And so as Mr. Jensen, as you said earlier, we have 3 games at Canyon this coming week, which I'll talk about here in just a second, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we have Thursday night games at Canyon, Thursday, Friday night games at Canyon, all 3 of the first weeks. Keep in mind, because we have, our Foothill League is 7 teams, so all of our teams take their bye week in the middle of the league schedule. So when you look at a CIF schedule, we're all starting actually what's called week 0. So when you see some of the numbers up here, it says week 0 to 3. That really means 4 weeks of a game schedule for our schools. So there you see what we did. So we've made changes completely to the first 3 weeks of our schedule, which is CIF weeks 0 through 2. So all of those we assumed, even based on what you saw today, if the scenario is it got done by September 1st, that's at the end of the 3rd week of games. So we know all of those are out of reach, so we made plans for all 3 of those weeks. We also have made plans for week 4. Mrs. Storley, what you're saying, are we sure it's going to be done in time? Just in case, we have a plan. So if you want, so there's, you see, it kind of went through some of the weeks of what we have going on.
I'll go back.
So as you can see there, these are all the games that had to be changed. You heard earlier Saugus was playing at Canyon tomorrow night. That is their homecoming. There you go. Their change actually had to do with, so not only is there things going on at Valencia High, COC has major construction going on to their stadium as well. And with all of the significant restrictions that's currently in place there, as we saw, Saugus, knowing it was their homecoming, decided we cannot have this, and there's only one entry right now to COC Stadium. The home entry you cannot get through. So it meant all kinds of changes, and so Saugus, that's why Saugus early on determined to go to Canyon, excuse me. So that change isn't even up there, but it was done earlier. We do have COC giving us the availability early on the following week for week 3 if West Ranch needs it. We also, if you notice, can you go back one more? Yep. You see we're doing something very out of the box because it was required based on the opponent and when we could have this game. On Friday the 25th, we are holding West Ranch's home game at West Ranch at 5 p.m. So this was a request of all the different options we had. We were on option D, working with Pasadena High School, and with Ralph and working with his team, we were going to be able to bring in the stands that we are able to bring in based on the rules set aside by the Division of State Architect, DSA. And so they're not huge stands by any means, but we're bringing in with a hopeful capacity of around 1,400, and we're going to hold the game at 5 o'clock on Friday at West Ranch. So, and that's something actually that community of all the options we did have prior to even contacting Pasadena, I know that's one that they had reached out that they were hoping that they could get, and that's the one we're going to look at making happen. We're also going to be bringing in extra restrooms, portable restrooms for that event, and the team and everyone's committed to making that a success. So that's what's happening on the 24th. That's why you see it actually at West Ranch. That's not a misprint.
I kept saying they don't have a, okay.
They don't have a stadium. They have the field. The lights, we have brought in portable lights this year because of a day like today with heat. So it enables, the lights aren't good enough. The officials would never allow us to use those for game purposes, but they're good enough for teams to have practices. So on a day like today, when the heat index was right around 102, 103 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, teams can push the practice back to 6 o'clock at night if they can. And so it allows for a little cooler practice. That's why the lights are there already. However, they're not, as I said, quality of lights that could support a game. So we have a 5 o'clock kickoff. I did with Mr. Fisher just yesterday, look at the forecast, and luckily it's between 89 and 94 with even a chance of showers next Friday. So so it looks like that temperature-wise will be a go. Yes.
The savings that we're having because the company is giving us 50% off or whatever, that's going to pay for all of the extra bathrooms and lights and things that we lost because we weren't where we were supposed to be in the first place.
Correct.
I'm just, again, these are questions I've been asked, so now it's out in the public. And I looked at this and I really thought it was a mistake because West Ranch doesn't have a stadium, but I do understand that. Could it have helped alleviate the pressure on Canyon to use West Ranch again for another game? Does that make sense?
It does. How the issue with that one is because it's very limited seating, and so the idea of trying to do that, plus some of these games that we're having to switch, as we've already talked about, are some of the homecoming games, such as the Valencia game that you see on the slide before, which is being played against Murrieta Mesa on, I think it's the 31st, is their homecoming game. So. And the hard part when you come across a homecoming game, it's not just the game you're talking about. These ASBs, as our student representative well knows, have put a lot of time in planning homecoming events on Friday night or Saturday night, depending on, and to then move all of those. And some of these contracts for those vendors have been a year in advance. And so it kind of ties our hands with that as well. So that's another reason why Canyon Thursday nights were being used rather than go to like a Saturday night, which is happening this week.
One more, promise. I almost promise, that's all. Canyon High School seems to have stepped up and been really nice about this. Is it hurting them in any way?
Well, I met with some of their booster parents yesterday, along with assistant principal Fodorero, and we spoke and talked about just what are some of their needs and making sure that there's a good changeover, because on one of the evenings, in fact that evening with Valencia, there's actually a JV game there before the varsity game, but it's not Valencia's, it's Canyon versus Westlake, Harvard Westlake. Harvard Westlake would not move the game, so they're playing it right before, just like a normal JV varsity game would happen, but it's not going to be the same teams. But we talked about how we can do the changeover and how we can make it seamless and all those things. So we're helping or adding extra staff when needed. That we're doing the same thing at this issue with COC because of their egress situations. We're going to have extra security. So we're using, again, some of this money for those purposes as well. So this has really been a moment of flexibility on everyone's part and stepping up and getting the job done. And as the folks at Canyon have been very generous with their facilities and what they have, and they've worked out a schedule and contacted all the schools about how to work locker rooms and classrooms and all those different things that go into this. So it's been really an effort on everyone's part, and it was actually heartening to see how everybody got together and made it happen. Were there some grumblings? Of course. This is not a situation we want to be in, but everyone was able to work together to make things happen.
I personally, I'm sorry,
Go for it.
I personally appreciate what you did this is like throwing all the balls up in the air and trying to catch them. And it looks like most of the people have been understanding and worked with this. And it looks like it's all going to work out. And if September 1st is real, then,
Yes, I would love for us to push that last slide, doesn't even exist. That would be awesome. Because both those schools, we just talked about homecoming, that's homecoming for Castaic and West Ranch. So we would love for it to be on the new Valencia turf. That would be awesome.
very much like to have that happen. I also see that you have, if it doesn't happen.
You have a
so-
contingency.
So thank you so much. And one time publicly, it's not my fault, right?
Aaron, did you have a question?
I do have a question, just a little plug to throw in there. If there's room within that 50% budget, I know that Canyon High School is on their last leg with their ice machine, which they said is not, looks like you already know this, that it's not going to be able to make it through. They've been using little parts from wherever they could find it to make that ice machine work, and they're worried about having 3 games a week to be able to do that in a hot climate. So I don't know if there's any any funds at all?
So
To be
I
able to?
actually believe we've already identified funds for that. We'll follow up
Perfect.
with the school to make sure that they are in
Great.
process of ordering that. Yeah, that was principal
That's
brought that to our
great.
attention at the beginning of the summer.
Dr. Moore?
I have a lot of questions and comments, but I wanted to know how many more slides you have so I can make them at the appropriate time.
I think we're done.
Okay, then
Go
I will
ahead.
start. Okay, thank you, Mr. Crawford and Mr. Peshek, for this update and presentation. I understand things were changing even today, so I appreciate that. And I'm going to ask if you could send us these slides so that as we get questions, we have the most current and accurate
And they'll be on the
information.
website in the morning as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I thought there was going to be a slide that showed what the 50% reduction represents, so that is my first
It's
question.
no secret, the cost for the warranty replacement was $400,000, and so we will be saving $200,000.
That's a good piece of change, and I appreciate that we pushed for that and made sure that they took responsibility for impacting us in a really dramatic and significant way.
I'd love to take credit, Dr. Moore, but just for all transparency, I sicked my best bulldog on them, and we owe that negotiation to our director of M&O, Mr. Carl Manley.
Love Mr. Manley. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you. Okay. So the installation process is going to take they're going to work 6 days a week, and they're going to finish by September the 1st. I know Linda asked earlier, Ms. Storley asked earlier about this August timeline, and with it being under warranty, there's no cost. But my question is about, we understand everybody's been flexible, and I so appreciate the flexibility and everyone coming together to make this happen. And there are some folks who have more impacts. Ms. Wilson already mentioned about the ice machine. She and I were together at Canton High School, and we know they have the brunt of the impact of this. My question is really related to thinking long term about the timeline for their turf replacement because of all of the use that's going to happen. And if, as we're thinking long term about that, if we can look at moving that up, because they will have significantly more wear on their turf.
Dr. Moore, I'll just jump in there. Same thought process, and we've had discussions. We think it is an appropriate time for us to put together a working group to really look at the long-term needs of our athletic programs and facilities. And so the superintendent's charged me with putting that group together, and it will have representatives from the schools and administration as well as community partners. And Mr. Crawford doesn't know this, but he's my deputy.
So you read my mind, because that was my next question. I appreciate that. It was, Mr. Crawford mentioned in his comments that we had one option because we can't use Valencia, so that leaves us with one option. We're the third largest city in LA County. We have 7 high schools. They all have fields, and we have one option when this happened. That is unacceptable, and it can't happen that that is our only option. And we have to think about that when we're doing this long-term planning and work. Part of my question is, what are we doing to think about the long term? The other question is with what's happening at West Ranch. I know 1,400 doesn't seem like a lot of stand space, but can we keep that until we figure out some other long-term plans? I don't know how much that costs us, but what does it hurt us to have a backup to a backup if we need it, if it doesn't go perfect, if we find that their rush causes concerns from our coaches about injury from the installation happening so quickly. I want us to think about all those pieces, and one of my future agenda item pieces was putting together that committee that sounds like you already are putting in place for modernization pieces that need to happen. I think you want to involve some board members too to help us think bigger about the long-term opportunities related to that. That's all.
I think there are, if I may, real quick, may I, Mr.
Yes.
President Jensen? There are bigger questions that I know, based upon previous comments, that all of us recognize, things like air conditioning in gymnasiums and issues of stadiums across the valley, which I think all of us are recognizing are a need. But we also recognize that to do that, we're going to need to find some additional finances to get there. And so I think we've sort of looked at this two ways. One would be, what are those needs that are maybe extraordinary needs that we're talking about? And then secondly would be, how do we find the extraordinary funds to make that happen? And so both of those are in the works.
Any other comments, Mr. Messina? Anything? Aaron, go ahead.
One of the things that was a request that you may already know about was there was a concern about the lines being repainted. Seems like that might be something that would be an easy fix, because Ms. Holcomb was worried about the safety issue of the players, because some of the lines are faded to gray and difficult to see when you're down on the field playing. So just something else to add to your
May I ask,
long list of things.
did you walk the fields with Ms. Holcomb on this?
I
We
actually,
discussed?
Ms.
Okay.
Holcomb and I actually are walking the Canyon Field tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Yeah.
She'll show that to you then.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
already on it.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Mark, Ralph, thank you very much. From my perspective, I'm trying to be positive with this whole thing. I was concerned this might last the entire football season. So hearing that it would be September 1st, perhaps at the latest, is really good news to me. And I've had discussions with people in the community as well. So in all respects, you may have a school that's displaced for one game only or two games only. It's a lot better than 10 or 11 games. So I choose to look at it from a positive side. Certainly, it's been difficult working with this vendor. It's nice to have the 50% reduction, save $200,000, but this could be a heck of a lot worse. Obviously, it would have been nice if it had not happened in the beginning, but I think you guys have done a nice job to really try to put this together and move us forward. And I think we got to be positive about the fact that it's only going to be for maybe 3 weeks, and to move forward the best that we can. So thank you very much for the report, for your efforts, and keep us in the loop and share information with us, and let's just keep putting the best foot forward.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen, and I'm going to reiterate one more time, this has been a team effort. Mark and I have led the team, but it took a lot of hands to help this move forward and support our students, and I'm super grateful to everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to echo those words, it took a lot of folks willing to do what needed to be done to make sure the students had games, whether it's Thursday night lights or Saturday night or Friday night. We were blessed that we got everyone a spot to go. So.
Okay, thank you again. All right, we're going to move on in the agenda to public comments. This is the time set aside to address the governing board on a topic within the board's subject matter jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. Please complete a speaker card and submit it prior to the beginning of the public comment period. 20 minutes are allotted for public comment at this time. The first 10 people to submit a speaker card prior to the beginning of the public comment period will be heard. Additional time is set aside in the meeting for any speaker that was not heard during the first public comment period. Please use the microphone and state your name, although it's optional. No action will be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda, and the board president will limit your comments to 2 minutes. The president may limit public comment time based on the number of regarding an item that appears on the agenda. You will be called upon to make your comments at the time the item is discussed by the board. We have 9 speaker cards, so we'll take all 9 at this point in time, and we will not need to have a second public comment speaker time.
Mr. Coleman, did we miss the special item? Or the award item, or the? Oh, I'm asking because I got the.
Mr. Messina, were you referring to the video, actually? Yeah, that's actually queued up. We had anticipated that you were going to do that during your board comments.
Oh, no, I thought that was a special award thingy.
Oh,
All right, How they say it? My bad? Yeah.
Well, actually, may I suggest that what we can do is we can bring, is it acceptable if we bring that back at the next board meeting and we will feature that piece?
Sure.
We have it ready to
Why-
go.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You won't lose it, right, John? Okay.
Okay, so our first speaker is Karen, followed by Lydia, followed by Matt. So Karen, if you would come up, and Lydia, if you would stand over here, and Matt, if you would also stand over there so you're ready to go when Karen is finished. Right, Karen, you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Karen Frost, and I am a parent of 4. I have 2 that have graduated from the school district and 2 that are still in, and I am very happy in the school district with the education that my kids are getting. So I'm not a disgruntled parent by any stretch of the imagination, but something has come across social media. It has, I want to be perfectly clear, neither one of my students have received these, but it's been circulating online, and it's been presented to me about something that is being shared in the classrooms. And it's a card having to do with names and pronouns and things of that nature. And to be honest, that really doesn't bother me at all. But there is a line on the very bottom of this card that says, would you like to follow up with me, in parentheses, in private, about your pronouns? Now, like I said, I've been a parent. I have kids that have been in Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, church youth groups, sporting events, and there's always really specific rules about adults meeting with students privately. And I have some concerns, and I just want the board to be aware of this, that maybe some guardrails need to be put into place on this. If a student wants to come to a teacher and discuss something of this nature, there needs to be a process where there's 2 adults or 2 students, so we don't end up in a situation where a teacher and a student are alone together. And we just want to protect the integrity of the faculty and protect the students. So I just think something, if this is going to be circulated, there's something needs to be put into place to protect all of the parties involved, because it's potentially dangerous. So that's all I have, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen. Lydia is next, followed by Matt, and after Matt is Rick Heinman.
I'm short.
Lydia, you may
Can-
go ahead and
can I
begin.
lower this? Or tip it?
Yeah, there you go.
Hold on. Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody had a great summer. I spent the month traveling with my daughter to Paris and London. We had a great adventure. I want to personally thank Joe Messina, Mike Coleman, Kathy Hunter, Sharice Moore for taking the time throughout this year to talk to me and really listen to my concerns and help me. I've put a lot of thought into whether I should just give up coming here, and personally, I just don't have it in me to sit quietly and watch some families be destabilized. I want parents to know that when a child is asked verbally or given a piece of paper or sent an email asking the preferred name and pronoun by a teacher or a school, the things that stood out to me was that would the student like to follow up with me privately, or are these pronouns confidential anywhere? Please explain. This is not a neutral act. It is also not like a nickname. I've been told that pursuant 5 CCR 432, if a child puts it in writing, the district shall call the child by the preferred name and pronoun, and the school will also put the name on all district-related documents, for example, ID cards and diplomas. In my opinion, this is a way to bypass the parental consent. Parents should know that the law AB 1266 does not require that a school district or its employees to use preferred name and pronoun of a student. AB 1266 does not require that a school district or employees to conceal a student's attempts to social transition from the student's parents. I'm asking the governing board to consider placing on the agenda a discussion of a parental notification policy that would require all schools to notify parents of a child using another name or gender that is not their biological sex or their birth name. Perhaps you can have your district lawyers attend so they can explain why the GenSpec policy is in conflict with the current law. I feel the community should know what is specifically that is in conflict with the law, and I want to thank you for considering this very sensitive issue.
Thank you, Lydia. Next up is Matt, followed by Rick Heinman, followed by Rebecca Heinman. You may begin, Matt.
Thank you. I'm going to cut to the chase. This is the letter, right? And again, would you like to follow up with me in private about your pronouns? Look, I don't care about the pronoun part. I care about the overstepping of the teacher's role, okay? The teacher's role is to teach my child and make sure that they're safe and comfortable in school, okay? Everybody who works at that school, whether you're an administrator or a janitor or a teacher, you're all mandated reporters. If you suspect that that child has concerns about the safety of their home, stop talking to my kid about it and do your job. Call the cops or DCFS. That's it. That's all that a mandated reporter is supposed to do. You're not supposed to tell my kid, hey, come talk to me in private about your pronouns or anything like that. You want to talk to my kid about something in their life, talk about what they want to do for work. I have no problem with the teacher saying like, hey, you want to join the Marine Corps? Let me tell you about the Marine Corps. No problem with that. That has nothing to do with my home. What it has to do with my home is what my kid decides to call themselves or identify as. That's my job. It's not the teacher's job. It's not the janitor's job. It's nobody else's job. Mine. Nobody else. Again, mandated reporter. I am one. Not my job to counsel somebody and to get more information out of them and to affirm anything. It's my job to make sure that that student is safe and secure. Mandated reporter, okay? Everybody needs to know that. It's not a mandated counselor. It's not a mandated, hey, I'm going to talk to you about something else. No, 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 no. Mandated reporter means, are you safe? If you're not safe, let me call the cops or let me call DCFS, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next is Rick Heinman, followed by Rebecca Heinman, and after Rebecca is Dr. Akash.
Thank you. My name is Rick Heinman. Last week, there was a threat of violence made on Twitter against Hart School District and Saugus High School that included my wife, Rebecca Heinman. This egregious threat of gun violence included a photo of a gun. This threat got the attention of Hart School District and the LASD. A police report was filed by the school district. Rebecca holds the Twitter handle Heinman for Hart, an account that she used during her 2022 campaign for a seat on this school board. She is also the treasurer for the Saugus High School Parent Teacher Student Organization. During the campaign and after, even though she is no longer a candidate, there has been an individual dedicated to repeatedly harassing and threatening Rebecca online. In his articles and tweets, the owner of this account repeatedly lies about Rebecca. These hateful lies and bullying tactics continue to be shared by some of the public speakers in this boardroom. This person falsely represents her expressed opinions and cruelly and falsely insults her intelligence and even her appearance. He even has gone as far as posting sexually explicit harassment online directed at Rebecca and myself. This person, who posts anonymously while claiming to value accountability, cannot provide any evidence to support his claims. The evidence he does post is nonsensical and irrelevant. But Joe, you know who I'm talking about, because you follow this account and you've liked several of his tweets. As a result, Rebecca has become concerned for her safety. Because of the threats and abuse, Rebecca becomes especially stressed when shopping alone, not knowing if this person or someone who reads his vile lies will harm her or our children. I want to express my admiration of the bravery shown by Rebecca Heinman, who continues to stand up to protect others. She believes she must work even harder to help others and to stop intolerance in spite of the abusive behavior and attempts at intimidation. I encourage the school board and everyone to take a stand.
Thank you, Rick. Your
condemning
time's
online
up.
harassment and threats of violence.
Next up is Rebecca Heinman, followed by Dr. Akash, followed by Martha.
Good
You may
evening, Board.
begin.
My name is Rebecca Hindman. Next week, the district is having a study session on school culture and climate. This is a morning meeting and is difficult for many to attend. Is there any way that we can have another study session at night? I truly appreciate that the district is taking the subject seriously. Our students deserve to feel safe, included, respected, and supported while they go to school or are part of a club or a team. Studies have shown that an inclusive, supportive environment leads to increased educational success. The aspects I just mentioned are key to safety on campus as well. When students feel they are a part of the whole, they learn to respect their environment and care for it, and maybe this could lead to a cleaner, safer campus, and especially our bathrooms. Many students feel they cannot use the bathroom during passing periods, brunch, or lunch because of the vaping and crowds in the bathroom. Many agree many are only comfortable using the bathroom during class when fewer students are around. Last year, a student was injured by another student when they were using the bathroom, and an aggressor charged the stall door, causing it to break and injure the student on the toilet. Bathroom behaviors are not the only concern students, teachers, and admins have. They have to deal with all the outside influences, including from parents. What is the district doing to help parents with their parenting skills for the changing world? Like how to support their student, or conversely, how are you dealing with parents whose behavior is threatening to others, including students, teachers, and other parents? We have rules about online racism and bullying towards other students. Do we have something for parents as well? Should these parents be allowed on campus if they have made threats to the school, district, or another parent? Culture and climate on campus covers many people. I would really like to hear and see what the district has planned, and I know many others would too, at a more than one available time. Can the district provide more opportunities for the public to be involved? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Akash, followed by Martha, followed by Nancy. Dr. Akash, you may begin.
Mr. President, respected board members, Superintendent Kuhlman, and community members. My name is Dr. Akash Ahuja. I'm a parent and a board-certified psychiatrist. I would like to bring your attention to a drug whose name is xylazine. It is a non-opioid animal tranquilizer not approved for human use. In the evolving drug addiction and overdose crisis in the country, it has been linked to increasing overdoses deaths across the USA. Studies show that people exposed to xylazine often use it in combination with other drugs, particularly fentanyl, knowingly or unknowingly. Also known as tranq, xylazine is a central nervous system depressant that can cause drowsiness, amnesia, slow breathing, slow heart rate, and brings blood pressure to dangerously low levels. Taking opioids in combination with xylazine and other central nervous system depressants like alcohol, benzos like Xanax, increase the risk of life-threatening overdose. In a suspected overdose, usually Narcan is given to a person, as we all know. However, because xylazine is not an opioid, Narcan does not address the impact of xylazine on breathing. Because of this, Narcan becomes less effective for its xylazine-based overdoses. Repeated xylazine use is associated with skin ulcers, abscesses, and related complications. People report using xylazine or xylazine-containing drugs by injecting, snorting, swallowing, or inhaling. I urge the board members, Superintendent Kuhlman, teachers, and parents to educate the kids about this deadly drug xylazine and to stay away from all forms of illicit drugs. Thank you. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Mrs. Erin Wilson and Ms. Dora Folladem. All the best to both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martha, followed by Nancy, followed by Cindy. Martha, you may begin.
Good evening, members of the board. I just wanted to address that the homeless population of students in Hart has doubled over the last 3 years. It went from, in 2019, 388 to almost 1,000 now. The numbers are based on demographics like race, age, economic status, and grade level. There is no measurement based on gender or gender identity that I was able to find from any reliable source. There are 16 schools, approximately 21,000 students. The minority enrollment is 60%, 9.9% are economically disadvantaged. Needless to say, when I found that one of my students brought this home, it was a questionnaire that doesn't have the district logo on it, probably because it's not a district approved document or a questionnaire and get to know you. I was shocked that I did not find anything about, is there anything at home that is causing you not to be able to do your homework? Is there something at home that is causing you not to be able to feed yourself? Who lives within your household? Are you able to get to and from school okay? Are you in a safe situation at home that will allow you to make sure that you get to school, get your studies done? Is there something preventing you from doing that? No. The only things that are on here have something to do with pronouns and gender. And can I use your pronouns in front of your parents, or do I need to hide it from them? And do you want me to talk to you about this quote in private? I firmly believe that there needs to be a policy and transparency within the schools, and I am asking the board that you create one, that we know the teachers, if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear, know the teachers that are passing out questionnaires like this and encouraging children to have one-on-one private conversations with something about anything really, but let alone something that can be so private as one's own identity. I think that there needs to be some guidelines there. Again, 2 adults within the home, definitely parental notifications, and to also address the things that are actually affecting a large population as indicated by your own website. The other thing is I do not condone any violence, threats of violence, bullying, or anything like that online. And I think that anyone that is doing that to each other, I encourage the district board to come up with policies so that resources for parents so that we can better handle the situation in the ever-evolving
Thank you,
culture of our
Martha.
children.
Your time's up. Appreciate it. Next up is Nancy, followed by Cindy.
Okay, can I please lower this?
You may begin, Nancy.
California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, spoke out against a proposal in Chino Hills that would notify parents about a student's gender identities. Apparently, Mr. Thurmond believes that nearly half students who identify as being LGBTQ+ are considering suicide without citing credible sources. He believes that students may not be in homes where they can be safe. It appears Mr. Thurmond supports children to be removed from their home by social workers without due process if parents do not accept a child's sexual identity, such as Bill AB 957. Ms. Moore, Tony Thurmond endorsed you during your campaign. You must share his ideology for you to seek his endorsement, just like you sought after the teachers union endorsement, which we all know are for the employees and not the welfare or education of our children. Their president uses the communist fist and quotes Karl Marx in their newsletter, The Voice. My point is I will continue to talk about what I observe of your actions because it seems you support the far left ideology of indoctrination, medicalization, and sexualization of our children. I hope to continue speaking and exposing the truth that someday every parent, taxpayer, and voter hears what your true intentions are. And it is not in support of parents' rights, nor our kids. Finally, it's unfortunate that Goldilocks feels she is a victim when it's our children who are a victim to her ideology.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cindy.
Yeah, they're fighting back there.
All right, Cindy, you may begin.
Can I start over?
Go ahead. Yep.
I'm standing here to remind everyone that parents will continue to fight as they are concerned with the ongoing progressive ideologies being pushed on their children. Personal ideologies are fine if they stay at home, but it has no business being pushed on children at schools. Here's a short list of what should be taught in schools: reading, writing, and arithmetic, the U.S. Constitution, the real truth on history and science, skills to become a positive role model in society and to have a successful future. Instead, they are being indoctrinated, and this is what they are being taught. If you are Black, you're a victim, and if you're anything other than Black, you are a white supremacist, a hater, and a bigot. Pronouns are also being taught, and they are more important than math or any other subject. They are being taught to disrespect law enforcement and the American flag. They're lied to about the real history, and they're lied to about real science. Their books that they are looking at are pushing transgender, oral sex, and porn. And it is also being taught that it is normal to be this way. Drag queens are allowed in schools, parents are not. Teachers are having secret meetings with students without parent knowledge. Parents are the criminals if they don't agree, and they are criminalized. Satan groups accepted, but God is not. Y'all know this is happening. And if you don't think that the devil is after our children, you are part of the problem. So let's not go another year bending a knee to the progressive left ideologies. No child should be forced other families' ideologies. This should stay at home. Let's keep our personal beliefs at home and keep true education in schools, period. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comments. We will now move on to our action items. We have 14 action items to go through tonight. The first is on reading and literacy added authorization grant. Dr. Vieira, you have this one.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jensen. The Hart District recently applied for the Reading and Literacy Supplemental Authorization Incentive Grant Program. The program is authorized by the state of California to increase the number of credentialed teachers authorized to provide reading and literacy instruction by attaining a reading and literacy added authorization. Grant funds can only be used to support credentialed teachers in earning this reading and literacy authorization through a commission-approved program. The Hart District is partnering with Cal State University of Bakersfield, and we have been awarded a total of $455,000 through June 20th, 2027 to support our teachers in adding this authorization to their existing credentials. It's also worth noting that the Hart District was the only district awarded funding in the first round of grant awards. Mr. Webb, our new literacy intervention program specialist, has been working with Cal State Bakersfield to get this going, and we're looking forward to, if approved tonight, beginning our first cohort in the new year. And it's recommended that the board approve this literacy, reading and literacy supplemental authorization incentive grant award.
Move to approve the reading and literacy added authorization grant.
Second.
You know what, I do have a question. Is this the proper time
Yes,
to ask?
go ahead. Yep.
This is just for my information, and maybe this isn't the right place to do it. Maybe I should have done this offline. I just wanted to know, I just had a couple questions about what do you do in 27 when the funding runs out?
Well, hopefully we'll have a very high percentage of our teachers that actually have the added authorization, and then they'll have that forever. So it's really to help our content area teachers work with our students in classroom who have some literacy difficulties, and it helps them with strategies to read actually the textbooks in the classroom. So the goal is by 2027 to have the majority of our teachers with the added authorization.
And when you say added authorization, you mean just that they'll receive the training that they need?
Yeah,
for
so
this?
all of our teachers have a teaching credential in whatever their content area is,
Gotcha,
English, math, science. This would be an added authorization that they have actually been through the coursework and now have an authorization that they can teach reading and literacy strategies within their classroom.
Oh, that's great.
Kind of like CLAD.
That's great. Great.
Good question.
And then the other question that I had was just with the evaluation, does that come from the outside or does that come from within our district?
That's part of the grant. That's part of what we come up with working with Cal State Bakersfield.
That seems like a great project.
Yeah, I really think it is, and it's going to be helpful. Literacy is not only a
That's
big push in the state, but it's well needed everywhere, strategies.
Okay,
I have
very,
a few questions. I'm sorry, just clarifying questions.
okay, go ahead.
I just want to make sure the report says 455,000, but the actual grant notification or intent to fund says 55,000.
That's for the first year.
Okay.
Over the course of the 4 years, the total that we're awarded is the 455.
All right. And then I know we're expecting to have a lot of our teachers do this, and it's really important because I know Ms. Hunter and I talked a little bit about our reading assessments during the pandemic. We learned a lot because we didn't have an assessment in place prior to that about the need and the gap in literacy with our students with reading. What is our goal for how many? I know we said a large percent, but do we have a goal in mind of how many every year?
You know, we do, and I don't have that. I want to say we're trying to get near 100% because that is the, we have, through the grant and Cal State Bakersfield, the cohorts are only going to be teachers from the Hart School District. And so, you know, we're going to have it going every year. I can get you the exact numbers that we're looking at, but we're looking at a majority.
That's so excellent, and I want to thank, I know Mr. Webb was very passionate about doing this, and I want to thank him for getting us to be awarded in the first round, so please let him know.
Absolutely.
One quick one. Is there going to be any kind of incentive like we had with CLAD? When we first started with CLAD, they gave us an extra $50 a month or something.
Well, this is,
forget.
the whole program is actually paid for, so the instructors, the authorization is paid for through the grant. Anything on top of that would have to be negotiated, but that is the main thing, is there is no cost coming out of the teacher's pocket to get this authorization.
I can't remember if we had to pay for CLAD or not. Did we?
Did.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We have a motion by Dr. Moore and a second by Mrs. Storley to approve this grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Vieira. We'll move on now. Mr. Peshek, are you okay to?
I'm good to go.
Okay.
Thank you, President
So
Jensen.
our next item, Ralph, is action item B, resolution number 23/24-3, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance. One of your favorite topics.
One of my favorite topics. Thank you, Mr. Jensen. As the board's aware, state law was previously enacted that when the district has more than 10% in uncommitted reserves, that we have to designate how those funds are going to be spent over the next 3 years. And in our case, as was presented at the recent budget adoption, all of those funds will be spent over the next 3 years addressing deficits, which will, at the end of the third year, leave us close. So this is a formality. It's required by law. We have to publicly state what's the excess going to be used for, and we're using it for budget deficits.
Move to approve resolution number 2324-3.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mrs. Wilson to approve resolution number 23/24-3. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Student
have
board
a question.
member.
I'm sorry.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mr. Jensen, but
Go ahead.
I know this is a budget item, and we have talked about how we're using it over 3 years, but I wanted to make sure that we know that we also will have a future board meeting in the very near future. We get to talk about it again, how we're using this 10%.
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Moore. Thank you. On September 18th, we'll be bringing
October.
a budget discussion within.
October 18th.
October.
yeah.
Excuse me, October 18th? My goodness. Oh, yeah, no, thank you. We'll be having another review of our budget situation. Yeah.
Because we're moving it really quickly here on the action item, and I just didn't want that to.
Yeah, this is a legal requirement. By the end of this month, we have to take this action.
Okay. So I say aye, Mr. Jensen.
Okay, and the chair says aye, so motion carries. Thank you. Now, item C, amendment number 1 to resolution number 22/23-19 on certification of signatures. Mr. Peshek?
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. With Mr. Webb's departure and Ms. Wilson joining us, we have to update our signature log with the LA County Office of Education, and we'll be adding Trustee Wilson to that list.
Move to update our signature certification list to include Mrs. Wilson.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve amendment number 1 to resolution number 22/23-19. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Chair says aye, motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to Dr. Nielsen has the next 2 items. The first is a recommendation to increase certificated substitute rate of pay. Dr. Nielsen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen, and good evening. I would like to just note that there was a typo in the original board item. It has been corrected on the agenda. The proposed daily substitute rate is, for the counselor, is $215, not $210. So in order to stay competitive with our other local districts, staff is recommending an increase in our certificated daily substitute rates for teachers, counselors, and administrators, as noted in the board item.
I move to increase certificated substitute rates as presented.
Second.
I do have a question.
go ahead.
We had a request for an increase for long-term substitute teaching, so I don't know if this is the proper place to bring that up, but.
There is another item in the consent agenda, that in the consent section that addresses long-term.
Vote on that later. So is that okay, Aaron? You want more information on
Yes.
that right now?
That's great.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by, and you guys have put a lot of effort into analyzing this and studying this and going back and forth, and we have what was done during COVID, and we're kind of arranging things and adjusting things, so it's a fairly sophisticated process, but I know you've been through it thoroughly.
Yes, we have. The daily rate was $125, and then with the COVID funds, so we're able to, for the teachers, with the COVID funds, we're able to increase that to $250.
Right.
To make sure that we had the available manpower to make sure our classes were staffed when teachers were absent. And so we've also now taken a look at, with that funding gone, what can we do to keep our sub pool nice and deep? Our elementary districts are offering a rate of about $185. In the AV, it's $200, and LAUSD it's $212 as the daily substitute rate. So we land kind of in the middle of that.
You said AV was 225?
AV was 200.
Oh.
200.
Who was 220? Did I hear 225?
You did not. 212 was
12.
LA Unified.
Okay.
So we're actually the high now.
No.
We're high of the local districts.
Okay.
Yes.
Percent
And you'd have to
included.
travel outside of our district to get a higher
Get
rate.
higher.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to increase certificated substitute rate of pay as indicated by Dr. Nilsson. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Thank you, Dr. Nilsson. And your next one is the notice of variable term waiver request.
Yes, thank you. Approval of this item will allow the district to fill a much-needed speech and language therapist position. The candidate who will fill this role will finish her program in September and will be fully credentialed at that time. Staff recommends approval of this waiver.
Question,
Go ahead.
when is that person going to start working?
With this waiver approval tonight, this person will start working tomorrow or beginning of next week.
And when is that person going to be fully credited?
I've been told it was end of September, before the seabed date.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I'll move this one.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mrs. Wilson to approve the notice of variable term waiver request as explained by Dr. Nilsson. All in favor?
Aye.
And student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
Thank you.
All right, that carries. Thank you. Mr. Otofka, welcome. It's always good to see you at the start of the new school year. High school football starting, Mike, tomorrow.
Maybe.
Be there. Canyon High.
Canyon High.
Saugus versus Rio Mesa from Ventura County. Okay, Mr. Otofka, you have item F and then several others. Item F is the award of the contract for the electric bus infrastructure project.
Excuse me, I've been sitting and not talking for 3 hours, so now District Transportation has been working with Southern California Edison to install an electric charging infrastructure for 17 electric buses over in the transportation yard. And the SCE grant covers the entire portion of the work except for installing the new bus charging devices and the underground connection to the level 2 charger, which is part of our project. BrightMove will complete this work for the district by tying into the SCE work and installing the level 2 charger. For some reason, Edison doesn't install the level 2 charger has 2 chargers on it, and it's a fast charger. So they don't do that work. So we're doing that separately, and we're going to just connect into the infrastructure that they're putting in. Staff received 3 quotes for the work, and BrightMove Energy submitted the lowest responsive quote. Staff recommends awarding this to BrightMove Energy. Are there any questions?
Got questions.
Go ahead, Joe.
Do we have electric buses now?
We do have electric buses. We have completed installing 3 charging stations in the M&O area by the warehouse, and we are about to start road testing some of those buses. We want to verify their capacity.
You know why I'm giggling. I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's been stories about these electric buses dying on the side of the road and students just having to hang out in them. So, I mean, when we get these buses, we have the buses now, right?
We do.
Are
Yep.
we using them or are they sitting there charging?
No, I was just saying, Mr. Massey, we just got the chargers.
Okay.
We
So
have
we
a
haven't used them at all?
So So the project Mr. Otofka is talking about, SCE has indicated it'll take between 9 to 12 months to install these charging stations.
And they're not, what, are they picking up any portion of this or?
Yeah, yes, they are paying for the overwhelming majority. This item that Mr. Otofka is bringing tonight is a dual charging station that we felt was needed for emergency charging situations.
Yeah.
And so we're paying for that upgraded charging unit, and that's what this is tonight.
I'll vote for this, but I'd really like to sit with you two and really go through the details
Sure.
of these buses, how long they expect them to last, what kind of, when you're starting and stopping all day and you're opening those doors all day and you're running around this town, I'm really curious to see how they.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to sit and walk you through that, and we could even bring an electric bus.
Maybe even let me use one after it's charged. I'll see how long it takes me to run it down.
So we purchased the same buses using grant funds from the state that Saugus Unified has been using for 2 years now, and Dr. Kawaguchi speaks very highly of their performance.
So they've been using those buses already?
Mhm.
Good.
Same specification.
I'm going to reach out to their maintenance guy and see how that's
Uh-oh, I
working
better
out.
warn her.
Isn't electricity more expensive than gasoline?
That would depend on the time of day that you are
That's right.
you're using electricity. Currently, there are 4 to 9 p.m. is the most expensive time of day to utilize electricity.
So we charge ours overnight.
Our charging system software allows us to start the charging at a time we designate, and so we will be charging them off-peak.
And our solar panels are helping us with.
Our solar panels are connected at the schools. We don't have any solar panels across the street.
And they won't do anything for us at midnight, so, yeah.
That's true. Sorry.
Just clarification, we are passing this, if we pass this, to get the dual chargers, to have more power, but right now we have the buses and we can't use them because we don't have a charging,
No, we
have a charger,
We
right?
currently have 3 charging stations.
Okay.
So SCE's process, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I'm.
SCE's process has not been as rapid as the bus fulfillment process. And so, like the turf, thank you, Superintendent.
You're having way
So
too
how
much
many
fun with
buses
this.
do we have? How many
So
electric-
we will have 14 buses. We do house Newhall's fleet here as well, and they will have 3 buses. And
So Newhall's has electric buses too?
3
Very
They
good.
were
Yeah,
awarded
17 total.
I should say also.
also, yes.
Oh, good, I can.
Are they going to use our chargers?
They are helping to pay, well, remember, part of the we, Hart, is
Hart.
putting in a super fast one
Okay.
as our backup. Newhall is putting in the standard 3, and we're also putting in the standards as well. We only have this one station that Mike's talking about tonight that's going to be the souped up one. And when Newhall is using a plugged in and charging, same arrangement we've had for years. We charge them for propane, we charge them for gas. We have tracking software that keeps track of that. And new electric, if you have an EV vehicle, you know when you go, it identifies your vehicle, same process, and we will be billing and tracking appropriately for electricity.
One souped up one, and I know you drive an electric vehicle, so you
I am a recently new EV driver, yes.
Yes. And what I find with driving an electric vehicle, which is not what I drive frequently, is that it's hard to find charging stations that aren't Tesla stations around the state. So I guess my question is, we're going to have one souped up one, and that will charge one rapid bus at a time and then rotate through the other.
We're getting, the project SCE is working on, every bus is going to have its own charging station.
There'll be 16 chargers.
Sorry if that wasn't
This
clear.
one.
Thank you. That's what I wanted
Yeah,
to
this,
know.
yeah, this
So
one
this is our
is just,
backup.
we'll charge 2, this one will.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To give you a heads up, I'm going to want to know, we really have to get a breakdown up front as to, what kind of maintenance it's going to take to keep these things rolling, what it costs to replace the batteries, because again, this is
Yeah.
fairly new.
Yeah, we have the
And
specifications
some people are
and the
being
life
bit
cycles.
by this, even in the truck world, are being bit by the amount of maintenance it takes to do this. And we don't need any added expenses. And to Ms. Storley's comment, and you saying the different hours, it's great, but they're finding it's in a lot of cases, it's almost as much, if not a little bit more than gasoline. Just saying. All right.
Okay, are we good with the questions? Anyone, can we make a motion and,
I ain't making the motion.
pardon me?
So Joe, you moved?
So moved.
I move that we award the electric bus infrastructure project to Bright Move Energy.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to award the contract for electric bus infrastructure project as mentioned. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one, Mr. Otofka, the fee proposal for the South Access Road at Castaic High School.
Right, this is for construction management services for that project. The district has been working on the South Access Road for several years, and the design for the project is getting closer to completion. Staff has been working on the project with Lundgren Management as the construction management firm. Recently, Lundgren Management ceased business operations, so staff would like to replace them with Fonder Solari, a construction management firm that we are currently working on 2 other district projects. Staff recommends approval of this fee proposal from Fonder Solari for the construction management for the Castaic High School South Access Road project. So we had the original Lundgren Management proposal. They will just take over that at this point, whatever's left in that. And what was left over in that was the $79,700.
Question. At that point, will there be a road there that can be used?
No.
No.
No, this is to get it to the point, we're working to get it to the point where we have and it's looking like we're going to work on getting a design-build package for a contractor to do this project. We've been in the county for quite a while now, and so it's a long process with the county.
About how long would you guess before that second road could be driven on?
It would be at least 2 years.
Because driving up to Castaic the other morning, something's got to give there. That's a mess, and I can see it could be a danger with the one road. And I don't know who or where we go, but if there were a stoplight on the corner after you go up the road there, then at least it wouldn't be a stop every car. And then it just gets to be an unbelievable mess going up there. So I wholeheartedly would like to see this road open as soon as possible.
We're working
Well,
to do this as quickly as we can.
This is a step in that direction, so we gotta do this.
You know,
and-
Mrs. Storley, I think Bob and I were the only 2 on when we were negotiating all this, including that road. And the biggest obstacle we had was how the parcels were lining up and who had rights to what and where. And I think that, not Lundgren, and did Lundgren, I'm not trying to embarrass them, did they go out of business or they just
They
decided?
ceased business operations.
Okay.
They just decided.
And we don't owe them anything at this point?
We don't owe them anything. no.
Okay. That's
Did they owe us anything?
No, they don't owe us anything.
right. And I think that's part of what Solari's going to do is go back down, looking at that road and seeing what properties are where, and it takes time. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of time.
we've even had some discussions beforehand in putting the proposal together, and
It's a
Fonder
big
Solari
deal.
has some really good thoughts on how to move this forward.
Mr.
And
Kuhlman has a
Sean Connor's
comment.
been on this from day one as well, so he's he knows what's been going on there from day one.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a trigger for the
Yes.
number of students that will initiate, that is, we are required to actually begin the construction. And I just wanted to clarify that piece, because when you say at least 2 years, that's not suggesting that we are actually 2 years away from the completion of the road.
That would be the very soonest, but
But we have not, in other words, we have not begun that process because we have not reached the trigger that actually was the original agreement, which, if I'm not mistaken,
1,600.
Dr. Nielsen, can you help clarify what that number was? Do you remember what that was?
I thought it was around 1,600.
Yeah, 1,600 students.
Give or take. We
All
were-
right, so Mrs. Storley made a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? Motion by, or second by Aaron Wilson to approve the fee proposal with Fonder Solari for the construction of the South Access Road project. All in favor?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you. Mr. Otofka, now it's the pre-designed master plan services at Hart High School fee proposal.
Yeah, this is an interesting project here. In 2020, DLR Group is the architect we worked with to do the master plan for Hart High School, and they did an entire feasibility study on. They did it on the Building D, the cafeteria building, the library. We looked at the administration building. We looked at the way the campus is planned, and and we've also at the same time been working on the Sierra Vista project, which is the modernization of the multipurpose room and the essentially replacing the food service with a food service facility that's twice the size, just to get it into equity with the other schools. So due to the knowledge gained from that project, we'd like to explore a different direction than the one that we worked on and was presented in the 2020 master plan for Hart for that Building D. And I had mentioned we're finding limitations and financial penalties that come with modernizing buildings that exceed 50 years of age. And this is coming out of the Division of State Architect and the kinds of requirements that they're putting on us structurally to bring those buildings up to current code. In addition, we're finding that creating a full functioning food service facility as a staging facility while we're modernizing another one is very expensive. So this new direction would explore the feasibility of adding a new combined library, multi-purpose building, and food service facility located in the spot where the current library is located. So this would involve two buildings, Building D and the library building at Hart High School. So this is just a feasibility study. So we'd be looking at just amending the master plan for that campus, just so we get a general idea of what all of that looks like potentially and what it would cost. That building would be more like a student union building. And this would be kind of the first kind of building we would have on any one of our high school campuses. It's a really good combination of functions. It solves a problem with not having to stage the cafeteria building at Hart High School. I don't know if you've been there, but it does need to be replaced, the actual food service area. And the difficulty of having to, Building D at Hart is a very heavy, dark, heavy building that would be very difficult to structurally renovate. So this kind of serves a couple different purposes.
Bless you.
And we'd also be looking at exploring new service entrance for food service, looking at the drop-off area in the front of the building, possibly looking at restructuring the quad area. And ultimately, I think what would come out of this is we would end up, in the end, demolishing Building D, and that would end up being a site for a future building. We've talked about added administration. We've talked about additional career tech. It butts right up to the career tech portion of that campus. So that's a lot of opportunities we would have by making that site available. So we'd like to, ultimately, we would have a cost for all of that also. So then we could include that in our master plan. So we'd recommend moving forward with this, and I'd like to entertain any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
The cafeteria building at Hart, it can't It would be way too expensive to make it a new cafeteria, but you're talking about tearing it down. Is it not worth anything as just a building space now without having to do anything to it? So we could make classrooms out of it or something without messing it up?
If we had to do anything to it, we would have to bring the whole thing up structurally, up to code,
So
which would be an enormous expense.
It couldn't be made into classrooms without doing all that.
There's a couple of things. The state also, when they reimburse us for these projects, the state reimbursement on modernization is about, it's a 40-60, I think, so it's 60%. But it's a much greater, it's about double for, if we were to replace a building, the state reimbursement is about double. So we receive more funding back from the state by replacing old buildings rather than modernizing them.
Okay.
And so, you know, in a lot of these cases where we've kind of changed the way we've looked at these buildings because of the both how the state funds them and also with the Division of State Architect, their direction, it's moving us in the direction of building newer, lighter, more energy efficient, you know, those
Okay.
types of buildings.
I think you need a student union cafeteria building, and there's really not another place to have one. If you converted the old cafeteria into classrooms, there wouldn't really be a place for a new student union cafeteria. So you kind of got to get rid of it because the cost is too exorbitant to improve it and just put
This
another
kind
one
of
there.
also serves two purposes. If you're looking at that campus, the two buildings that need to be replaced, one would be Building D, the cafeteria, the other would be the library.
Right.
And so this kind of is a move that takes care of both of those things.
Right. Okay, so
I do have a question. I'm just wondering, have we had received any proposals before from a DLR group? Have we had?
Yes, they
used
did
their master plans
They
before?
did the master plan.
For Sierra, okay.
For Hart High School, and
For
they're
high school.
very
Oh, okay,
familiar
okay,
with it.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Awesome, go ahead.
Dr. Moore, do you have a question?
No, I want to move to approve the proposal from DLR Group, Inc. for the feasibility study for the pre-design master plan services at Hart High School.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the fee proposal with DLR Group, Inc. for Hart High. All in favor?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Tofka, now we have the Hart High School varsity softball field project.
Yes, I think I spoke to the board last year about this. So we finished all of the bid documents, put it out to bid. We had a single bidder for this project, the softball field. It's, if you're familiar with the campus, it's on the upper field and it's right behind the tennis courts. That is currently a JV field that is, we're going to upgrade and turn that into a varsity field, including dugouts, concession building, electronic scoreboard. It'll get new fencing, it'll get new backstop, new turf. And so the bidder, R.C. Becker and Son, they were the lowest responsive bidder. They were the only bidder also. So we recommend awarding the project to this, to R.C. Becker and Son. They're a local company. We've done work with them before. They do excellent work, and we're very pleased that they're doing the work.
Move to award the bid package number HA2307A for the Hart High School varsity softball field project to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, R.C. Becker and Son, Inc.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Wilson. I have a question. So no one else, everyone else too busy to bid? Or no one wanted to take it on, or what? Any idea?
We're trying to figure that out because we have the Sierra Vista project out to bid.
Yeah.
Now we're also having trouble getting bidders pre-qualified for that.
I would share some other school districts here in the valley have actually been reaching out to us asking for construction vendors. who
Everyone's
are-
having the same problem.
Because they're having the same
They're busy.
issues. It's not
I know everyone's
roofing
busy.
project at one of our feeder districts, and they can't get anybody to bid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not unique, and they're busy. And I know this is another field project, but what's our timeline?
well, we're hoping to start this next, first week in September. We want to get this finished so that the girls can play on it. Their season starts around the 1st of January.
Good.
That's quick.
Good timeline. Okay, motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Wilson to award the bid package to R.C. Becker and Son for the Hart High varsity softball field. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you. Motion carries. All right, item J, Mr. Otofka, geotechnical materials testing, Nino and Moore, Hart High softball field again.
Yes, this is related to the last item. District construction projects must comply with Division of State Architect DSA guidelines. DSA requires the district hire an independent DSA materials testing lab to work with a project inspector to perform any DSA mandated materials test required by the DSA. Just as an aside, every load of concrete that comes onto that site has to be tested. Every piece of reinforcing steel that comes on has to be tested. This is just what we as school districts were subjected to under DSA. I happen to think it's an excellent thing because these we have such a responsibility with kids on our sites. They have to be safe.
Move to approve the fee proposal from Nino and Moore for Division of the State Architect.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Wilson, second by Dr. Moore, to approve the fee proposal for the Hart High varsity softball football field for geotechnical materials testing and inspection services. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, thank you on that one. Mr. Otofka, you have two left here. Next one is the Sierra Vista multipurpose building and kitchen modernization.
Yes, I mentioned that, the Sierra Vista project where we're modernizing the multipurpose room and basically rebuilding the food service and doubling the size of that. This is the same type of thing for that project, but this is a much more complex project than the softball field project. So you'll notice the cost is much higher. This project it's scheduled, it's about 2.5 years long, and there's a lot of materials testing on this project. So this is the same type of project. Staff recommends hiring Converse Consultants as the project's DSA materials testing lab of record. They have been the geotechnical engineers on the project. They're familiar with it. We'd like to continue using them on this, and I'd like to ask you if you have any questions.
I have questions, but I'll make the motion first, that we approve the fee proposal for Converse Consultants for DSA Geotechnical Materials Testing and Inspection Services Company for the Sierra Vista Junior High School multipurpose building and kitchen modernization project.
Second.
Go ahead, Dr. Moore, with your question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jensen and Mr. Otofka. I heard you say 2 to 2.5 years long for completion of this?
Yes.
So during that time, can you remind us what will happen? This is
Well, first of all, we're going to have a temporary food facility out there, and they will be preparing food in that facility, and they will be serving students, and they'll be serving the students under the solar panels. There'll be tables in that area. Once that's up and running, then we'll take the kitchen out of commission, and multi-purpose room is not, it's not such a, I mean, we can just schedule that out of commission. And then the multi-purpose room is going to go through some pretty drastic changes. Because the campus now is designated as a liquefaction zone. It was not originally, but the newest California Geological Survey maps, they've changed it. So there's quite a bit of, what we have to do is, the way to do this is to drill a grid of of about, I believe they're probably about 8 or 10 inches in diameter. They're going to drill that about 8 feet deep throughout the building, and they're going to inject grout into that. That's how you take liquefaction soil and you bolster it so that it'll support the building. And
So it won't
yes.
start to sink and crack, okay.
So that's it's a complicated, involved process, and so that's what's going to take the time.
So thank you for that. And my question related to building the temporary food service area for the students, 2 to 2.5 years, but we're having troubles finding contractors. Are we timing this to where before if we approve this tonight, before we start to do any actual work on the campus, we'll have that shored up and in place?
Well, I'll just give you what's going on right now. The project has been out to bid for about 3-4 weeks now. We have a couple of areas in sheet metal and in refrigeration that we don't have any pre-qualified bidders. We have to go out now during the bidding period. We have to separately go out. We have to go out and solicit other bidders so that we can actually, because had we tried to have the contractors bid this now, they wouldn't be able to. They don't have enough pre-qualified bidders in the sheet metal, fire protection, which would be fire sprinklers, and in refrigeration and metalworking. So we're going out, we're soliciting additional contractors, trying to get them to, so that the general contractors who are bidding this will have a greater pool of contractors to pull from.
Pull from for their subs. Okay. And I know we said the multipurpose room, we don't have to think about scheduling so much. I'm just wondering, and I am going to be asking about this a little bit later, about the use of the gym as a place and an option. And I know we've talked about gyms and air conditioning, but how could we help that be a possible, if we aren't able to find bidders to help us with what we need to do for the food, is another maybe option C to look at an existing space on the campus that could help. I don't know. Just trying to think out of the.
It's not the food service that we're having issues with. We have that all designed. The temporary facility will be over by the where the solar arrays are. It'll be right in that grass area. There's a prep room and a kitchen. So there are two. They'll be in the. It'll be built in cargo containers.
Okay, so we have everything ready for that.
We have that for the
okay.
Yeah, it's the issue now is getting bidders that are pre-qualified for those trades that we're having issues
For the actual work and the modernization. Okay, and then how and when does the gym and do the locker rooms? I heard you mention something about sites that are over 50 years old with their construction. I don't know where Sierra Vista is with that, with some of their buildings, but I think about what we're doing with Hart, and I think about what's happening at Sierra Vista with the modernization kind of coming in these pieces.
Well,
and I'm wondering how we, again, think long-term about all of the needs.
Well, currently, we only have about $34 million in our state reimbursement. This is our 40.3 fund. We think, okay, so we know the Hart varsity softball, that's going to be $3 million. And then there are some soft costs on top of that we've already paid, for architects and engineers. And the lighting the 5 fields, we're budgeting about $7.5 million for that. Sierra Vista, depending on, the more contractors we have bidding, usually the price goes down the more you have.
Competition, right.
Yes, because of the competition. The budget for that we've set is about $12 million for that. If you start adding those up, we only have about $9 million left after that to do the Hart project. We want to update the master plan. We want to know what that costs, but at this point, we don't think we have the funds to do that project right now. But we want to get ahead of that. We want to know what that's going to cost. We want to know what's involved in that project.
Yeah, and I understand the funding shortage, and I really just think it's important for us to continue to make sure that we are elevating the age of some of our facilities and the need for modernization to happen. I can't tell you how many emails I get about air conditioning in the gyms. We've talked about that since I've been on the board, and I'm going to continue to help us to bring this really to the forefront, because if we don't know what it all looks like together, we can't plan for it and be putting in place the things that we need to as a board to help us get there.
I know it's not on the agenda, and I probably can't speak to it, but we did complete the feasibility study for the air conditioning for the high school gyms, and we'd be happy to share that with you.
Let's bring that back at a
I have a-
future meeting.
I'm
We're
sorry.
ready to vote on this?
No,
or-
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to bring these portable things in to service the food, but we're going to do that before we have a hard date to start. I mean, that seems to me an expense that doesn't make any sense. So we bring in these portable buildings to serve food, but we don't actually have a date for starting the reconstruct, or the,
We do. Yeah, we have a schedule. It's all been scheduled out. It now has to be modified because we're extending the bid because we're out for another pre-qual.
but we don't have companies that are actually going to bid on it. So I'm just wondering, we're not going to bring these extra buildings on the campus until we've got a hard date start with real bidders, contractors in place, correct?
Yes, it's all part of the project. The contractor is part of their project, the one that we're bidding. They're bringing in the temporary food service.
Okay, so.
Yeah. So it's all going to happen all at once, or it's not going to happen.
Okay, and my second thing is, through all of these, as a classroom teacher, while construction is going on, and the one of these that we were talking about was a 2-year period, if you're not a classroom teacher, you have no idea what it does to a classroom and students and kids when stuff's all torn up. It's not a good environment, and the longer that goes on, the harder it is on teachers and students. And it really is a thing. It's like noise that's constantly going is not good for people. So these that aren't going to be able to be done in the summer, then I just feel sorry for the teachers and the students that are on these campuses while all this construction's going on. And I know it has to be done, and I'm not giving a solution, I'm just bringing an issue up. It's really hard on teachers and students.
I understand. We understand completely. We've done everything we can to minimize that. We have we know what area is going to be cordoned off. The advantage we have to this project is this building, or these two facilities, are separate. They're not connected to any other building. So we have construction traffic coming in one way. We have all of that really figured out, because we don't want to mix. We want construction traffic to be in one spot. We do not want to mix that with any kind of school traffic. So that's all been figured out. We have,
I guess I'm just saying, through the several that we've already talked about, I'm hoping that someone's taking into consideration what this does to teachers and students, and does everything that they can to make this the least invasive process, because it's really tough. I was at Canyon during some of the stuff, and it's really hard.
we've
So
done our
let's, Mike,
best to do
let's,
that,
let's
because
get it done as soon
Yeah.
as we can. I think we need to move on here. So let's get it done as soon as we can. I think the point's well taken, Mrs.
Yes.
Storley. So we have a motion by Dr. Moore and a second by Mrs. Storley on item K with Converse Consultants. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, thank you. So good job, Mr. Tofka. You got one left here with HED on the Valencia High Auditorium.
So Valencia High School opened almost 30 years ago, and much of the auditorium equipment, projection screens, speakers, lighting controls, et cetera, it's all original, has never been replaced. We also did a feasibility study in 2020. HED, Harley Ellis Devereaux, HED did that for us. And we identified that as a priority to modernize that auditorium. We have identified in a CFD about $1.6, $1.8 million. We want to, and we're going to fund this project with that. We'd really like to have more, but we're going to target the replacing the equipment in that auditorium and to make it operate like it was supposed to operate. And so HED will work with the district to design the necessary improvements and create division state architect approved bid documents. So this is more than a feasibility study. When we're done, when HED is done with this, we will have bid documents we can put it out to bid so that we can actually get the work done. And we have the
Questions
funding
from
in
the board?
place for that.
Any questions? Comments?
No.
Move to approve the fee proposal from HED for architectural design services for the Valencia High School auditorium modernization project as presented for approval.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the architectural design services for Valencia High School Auditorium Modernization Project with HED. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Mr.
Thank you.
Tofka, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been,
Mr. Tofka,
appreciate your work.
I don't know if it's possible, but thank you. And you had a lot of items on our agenda tonight, and we see you at these meetings as much as we see each other at these meetings. I don't know if it's possible. Some people have to stay with us. If we could switch the order and put his items first in the future agendas, since he doesn't have to stay for all of it. I don't know. Just would like that for consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on now to resolution number 23/24-4, Many People, One Heart. Mr. Kuhlman.
Yes, thank you, President Jensen. The William S. Hart Union High School District acknowledges the integral role that diverse individuals have played in shaping the United States, and the board is invited to consider one annual resolution to recognize and celebrate the heritage and history of various groups detailed on the official State Department website. And I'd like the board to take note of how this resolution captures both our commitment to supporting and celebrating diversity while also focusing on the unity of the One Heart family. And it seems to me that it captures both aspects of every student opportunity ready, and we are 18 different school communities, but One Heart.
Move to approve resolution number 23/24-4.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Wilson, second by Mr. Messina to approve resolution number 23/24-4, Many People, One Heart. All in favor?
I have questions, comments. First, thank you for bringing this for consideration. As I was reading it, I did not have time to meet with you prior to share some suggestions, questions, and concerns. And I'd like to have that opportunity before we finalize this. Many of the items are wonderful, and there will always be something that's missing. And so I guess part of my question is related to that, how we will always address the things that are missing. I know we use the State Department's website, and it says including but not limited to. And I think that's because of the recognition that there will always be something that's missing. How we would update this. And then my other questions are related to some of the whereases that speak to students but not staff, and wanting to make sure that we are encompassing of both of those places. And another of them speaks to the approach of the U.S. federal government. Again, like I said, I did not have time prior to the meeting to share this feedback with you, but I don't want to vote on it until you've had time to look at that. And the board has had time to look at that. It's not huge, but it is some changes. They're not significant in scope, but there are some suggestions. I would like to table this until that time.
Well, we have a motion and we have a second.
Mr. Coleman, this is in line with what Newhall did, correct?
Correct. Yes. The same general concept, yes.
Yeah. And if we needed to, we could always come back and revisit and redo.
Which is
Right.
all I would like to ask us to do, bring it back in 3 weeks.
I
And it's especially important.
I understand what you're saying, but I think, we've all had time to look through it. We can revamp it and bring it back. I'd like to do it at the first of the year myself, but that's just me. That way there, it's a new year, and it's a new resolution to say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. But that's just my opinion.
Well, we have a motion and a second, and I think and a request to table, so I think we need to,
And especially with this meeting with Dr. Bowers too, around this, I'd like us to have a little bit more time. I don't think it hurts to have that.
well, we have a motion and a second. I think we need to vote on that, and we go from there. So we have a motion by Mrs. Wilson, a second by Mr. Messina to approve Resolution 23/24-4. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
Aye.
Dr. Moore,
No.
student board member. Okay, so the motion carries. We can always bring it back and make changes at a later time. Okay. Our last action item is item N, appointment of representative to LA County School Trustees Association, Mr. Kuhlman.
We just do this? I feel like we did it like. Thanks. Okay,
Actually, down
all
there.
right.
Okay, so who's the current member? Okay,
Did Mr. Webb leave any openings by leaving that we need to fill in committees or this kind of thing? That's fine, I just didn't know. Okay.
so does someone have an interest in serving on this, or,
I'm fine just continuing.
okay?
Yes.
This is like that being the secretary of, right? It's like
down-
Hey,
nobody wants.
we get some pretty nice dinners out of this, don't we? So,
Yes,
yeah.
this is
Really? Like
going
where?
to all the school districts around the county
So how often do you meet?
every month.
Well, I would be happy to do it when you're tired of it, so.
Is there an alternate, or?
So we've had we've had an alternate,
Okay, well,
so
when
that I don't
Linda,
have to drive everywhere.
when Linda gets
alone.
tired of doing it, then maybe
Well,
Erin could
I
be
would-
the alternate, you can go together, she
I
can
would
learn.
just say that my particular situation right now makes it very difficult for me to do outside things. So I would like to let Mrs. Wilson be the alternate for right now.
Okay, let's,
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So motion by,
So-
who's making the motion?
I move that we keep Dr. Moore as the primary and Erin Williams as the alternate.
Aaron Wilson is the alternate.
Erin
yeah.
Wilson.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. So motion by Mr. Messina, second by Dr. Moore, to have Dr. Moore continue on as the representative with Aaron Wilson as the alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now with the consent calendar. Unless a board member has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the governing board approves all the items at one time. We do have one speaker card, Matt Funicello, on the consent calendar. Item D3. Matt, if you wanted to come up and make your comment.
Rinse and repeat, right?
You may begin.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, I sent you an email earlier today regarding special education. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I've spoken on special education before. The email and my statement here is not to be argumentative or confrontational. I just want to voice my support for special education and to see how I can help you, the district, implement improvements to the special education, either by increase in funding, resources, all that stuff like that. So like I said, I emailed you and the special education director as well. But like I said, I'd love to work with any one of you guys, and girls, sorry, ladies, on this. You know, my wife's a special education teacher, means a lot to me. And like I said, I want to be able to help you, or I need you to help me help you, basically is what I'm trying to say. So like I said, I support special education, and if you need any further information, just email me back. We can exchange contact info and all that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, board, do you have any particular questions, or would you like to vote on anything separately, or have anything pulled, or anything like that?
I
For
move
the-
the consent calendar.
I did want to ask about the, I see here on number 2 is the long-term substitute rate of pay. So I just wanted to ask about that.
Please do so.
Clarification about it.
Yeah, so for long-term substitutes, because they are covered in the collective bargaining agreement, the rates are addressed in the collective bargaining agreement. In this particular case with teachers, the language states that it would be double the rate of the daily substitute for a teacher. In this particular case, if we raise the rate for our daily teacher to $190, like we did earlier, that would mean that the long-term sub would be paid $380 per day, which would put the substitute, the long-term substitute, further along in the pay schedule than many of our teachers that are teaching with us. So we did not want to disincentivize folks from becoming full-time teachers in our district. So we reached an agreement with the union to have the long-term rate at $300 for long-term substitutes.
Okay, and does that start after the 30 days, or is it start the first day?
Does not start the first day. It starts after 21 days, I believe. 21 days.
Because I know that that is a more difficult, even from day one, that's a more difficult, rigorous schedule. So, was that changed from 30 days to 21 days to accommodate? That's always been the way it is?
It's been 21
Okay.
days, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Colin.
Yes.
And Dr. Moore, go ahead.
Item 10 under business services, just wanted to celebrate the notice of completion for the Castaic High School gym floor replacement. So excited about that.
Okay, well, we have a motion by Mrs. Storley.
Got a question here.
I'm just curious about the items like 6 through 10, where they like talk about different universities. I was just wondering like what that is.
6 through 10 on,
Or
The
7 through
partnerships
10,
that we
7 through
have
10.
for,
All the memorandums?
The understanding, the
I'm just curious about it.
So what's the letter first? Give us the letter.
Oh, okay, my bad.
memos of understanding.
All the memos of understanding, they're right.
It's
the
under,
education services.
Yeah, if we're talking about, if number 6 is the memorandum of understanding between the Center for Educator Preparation and Assistance and Granada Hills Charter High School, is that the one you're referring to?
6 through 10, yeah.
Well, is
All of them.
it the
The
generic,
idea.
what is the
Yeah,
memorandum?
Yeah,
like-
so
Memorandum of
I'm
understanding.
glad you asked. So This allows our SEPA program, which is our Center for Educator Preparedness and Assistance Program, to support a veteran teacher at Granada Hills Charter High School at a cost for Granada Hills Charter High School. So it allows our folks that work in our program, which is a very, very positive and supportive specialized program to support teachers, allows us to be able to work with Granada Hills Charter High School with one of their teachers. So that's number 6. Number 7 is a memorandum of understanding between the Department of the Air Force Air University and the William S. Hart Union High School District regarding SkillBridge internship program. And this is a program that helps retiring Air Force officers receive the training to transition to become AFROTC instructors, which is important. So this allows them to get the background, the information, the hands-on experience to later become an ROTC instructor at a high school. Number 8 is the Memorandum of Understanding between California State University East Bay and the William S. Hart Union High School District regarding student teaching. This allows any student teaching candidates, any credentialed candidates at Cal State East Bay to work in our district as a student teacher. So it allows us to help them with that preparation process.
But to boil it down, a memorandum of understanding is simply an agreement between us.
That's correct.
And another entity.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Good question.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, it brings us down to items for future consideration.
I would like us, oh, I'm sorry, did I step on you?
No, I need to bring this back. You
Oh,
said
yeah, yeah.
January.
I would like us to look into what they were talking about tonight with that form. Clarify that whether it's a district form or not, because that's what's going through the system. And look at it as a district to see if we need to do anything about it. We may not need to do anything, but we may need to do something. But I think we need to clarify because they're being told it's being forced by the district, and I think that's all.
Yeah, and just to clarify, happy to do that. So is your request for clarification that you would like to know where these forms are, where this is
Where
happening?
are they coming from, where it's happening?
Right.
And
Is it us?
do we need a policy if one of the, I don't like the number 4 question either, just be blunt about it.
Yeah.
And just, we need to lay it out that these kind of questions, you're allowed to ask questions, but there's certain ones that are off the table. But I don't even know where they're coming from.
Several. Do you want me to
Go ahead, Dr. Moore.
I have 7 or 1?
5?
Okay.
I would like us to bring this back, especially after we meet. This is the Many People One Heart resolution, especially after we meet with Dr. Bowers on our focus on school climate and culture next week, because I will share with you what my suggestions were, and I think we might have more thoughts about that after our meeting with Dr. Bowers to be more informed of how we want to approach this. So if we could look at that again in September, October, would be great. Right. And then the other pieces that I have, Mr. Messina mentioned the Girl Scout Gold Awards and one of our students being recognized. I love, and I know we all love when we get to celebrate and recognize our students. I don't know how we would find this out, but if there would be a way that we could recognize and celebrate our students who receive their Gold Award, the Girl Scouts, and for our Boy Scouts who receive their Eagle Scout Award, I'd love us to have an opportunity to recognize and celebrate them at a board meeting somehow.
Is the idea that would, like, if people reach out to us, we would?
I don't know how we would find out, but, we recognize the young lady today, and they're likely all across. I know some at other high schools, too, who I think it's important. They work really, really hard to get those awards.
Do we need to read out to like to the, is there like a main Girl Scout office or locals that we could reach out to and just ask?
Maybe.
You're asking us to reach out to them and ask,
I guess.
so what we could, I mean, okay.
We have to figure out how to identify the
Yeah, let's
students.
just,
We don't have to
it's just
solve it
something we want to
tonight.
do in the future. It doesn't have to be done.
It's just an item for
Yeah,
consideration.
next meeting, but
Right.
we should be honoring some of the kids in our district for the wonderful things they do.
And then the other piece that I want to make sure and clarify, our meeting next week with Dr. Bowers on the school culture and climate, it was shared that we want to make sure that we have continued opportunities to have community input. And I wanted to clarify that the intent of next week's session, while we always welcome community input, it's really for the board to review some of the input that we received at the initial session and to learn about what that was so that we can help make some decisions about future opportunities for continued community engagement, similar to what we might be doing or similar to what we are doing around safety. So it's not a one-time. It's not a one and done opportunity for community input. That's just a clarification, so not a future item. And then I would like us, though, for a future item to look at the attendance boundaries. I don't know how long it's been since we've looked at that, but since I've been on the board, we haven't. And our community is growing and development is happening and building is happening. So I'm just curious about the impacts of that on our attendance boundaries.
Clarification on that, I wanted to turn to my team. We have looked at that to some extent with our a demographer, is that correct? Yeah, and the most recent time that we looked at that was within the last couple of years, or is it on an annual basis?
Yeah, David Cates was here and talked to us during the redistricting.
Redistricting for us. That was for
yes,
us.
for the board members.
Not for the student attendance.
What do you mean for us, for the board members?
Board member.
And so what I just asked is,
Jeff
are you
dictated-
asking perhaps that you wanted us to bring back the demographer and talk about whether the attendance boundaries continue to make sense, or?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be a decision of the board. I just want to make sure that that the board want us to go to look at attendance boundaries?
I'm
That's a big
confused. Are
undertaking.
you talking about
So-
voting boundaries?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the student attendance.
Correct.
So
No,
this
I
is one of
understand,
the
but
pieces
attendance
on-
boundaries are, that is a important and a big undertaking. And if we embark upon that, I just want to make sure that that's the direction the board wants us to take. There's a lot that.
I don't know that we have an issue right now. I mean, usually we look at each of the schools, right? And how many folks we have at each school. If a junior high has 2,000 people and one has 500, we got an issue. But when they're all around 1,000 or 800, 900, 1,100, I don't know that we have any issues.
Yeah, we are going to have an enrollment report, I think, next meeting or afterwards. I mean, that'd be a good starting point to have this
That's a good
conversation.
starting point. I think that helps. And the reason I brought it up is because it was brought up to me as a concern, and our impact at schools, your schools, Mr. Messina, Saugus, and Arroyo Seco, will continue to be further impacted, and classroom space and all those conversations relate to the attendance boundaries. So I don't want us to ignore that that is a concern that has been brought up. And I think it's a prudent thing for us to, like we look at other things on a regular basis, to have a cadence at which we look at important things like attendance boundaries regularly. It might, and I don't know when the last time we looked at it is, if it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and our community has, before you were on the board, and our community has definitely changed with the building and development since then. So I think it's just responsible for us to do that.
First, I'd ask, maybe in a Friday memo, can we get when was the last time we did it? And what kind of,
May I suggest a different, I mean, we could, yes,
I
we
just-
could do that.
yeah, I
But I
mean,
mean,
just
just
get
for
a date.
clarity purpose for my staff to be able to, do we want to begin with looking at the enrollment report and identify the areas that we believe that we may have issues, and
And
then
do it
we
that
can
way.
construct
Yes.
the actual,
Yes.
Data around
Yes.
what your issues are? I mean,
Yes.
that might be
We
more
can
focused
certainly
way
do
to
it
approach
that way. We can bite it off in small bites. I just want us to look
Was
at
that
it.
it, Dr.
About
Moore?
3
Did you have
times
one
since
other
we've
one?
been-
No, the other one is related to the facilities. And again, we have facilities modernization efforts that we bring to the board consistently and regularly, and we're running out of money. And I need us to consider things long-term, and I like us to have, I know we have FMCM, and I don't know if this is where this happens, but to have a place, Mr. Peshek mentioned the internal staff team, but to have a place to start having some conversations, bigger conversations around that.
We do have those in great detail at the FMCM meetings, and maybe we can, at the next meeting, we can talk about some kind of summary, get out a summary as to what we're looking at doing, what we need to do, and the kind of money we need. How's that?
That would be great.
Okay,
It
cool.
doesn't have to be at the next meeting. None of this
No,
has
no.
to be at the.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying at the next meeting that FMCM has, we'll work it through and then get it out.
All right, so is that it?
That is.
Okay,
thank
so I
you.
have one. It's my usual request at this time of the year, the enrollment report. I always like to find after we start, a week or two, what the enrollment is for the first couple of weeks, what we're looking at, ADA, all that kind of stuff, because we're funded based on average daily attendance. We need to monitor the enrollment constantly. That's my request as soon as we can get it, actually. We need to be always focusing on that. So, all right, any other items? If not, it's 9:55. We have a motion by Mrs. Storley to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you. We're adjourned.